Boom. As he spoke, Yun Zhong urged the 1,000-year-old peach tree thundersword to send out a terrible thunder force and killed one of the blood evil spirits again. Up to now, there are only 5 blood evil spirits left outside the 8-pole field shield, and the rest 3 are killed by Yun Zhong. Yi Daoyu, can we stop the attack? Let's talk about the blood oath slowly. Stop fighting first, everything is easy to talk about. The voice of the great elder of Xianming sect was anxious, and his words were not as arrogant as before. His tone softened, and his address to Yi Tian became respectful. However, Yi Tian laughs. He doesn't care what he says at all. He just holds his hands and glances at the remaining 5 blood evil spirits. He says, the great elder of Xianming sect, it seems that you don't think he has a thorough understanding of the blood evil spirits, do you? In fact, the 108 blood evil spirits are not ordinary. What does it mean that they can be directed by you in a state of unconsciousness? Do you think he doesn't know? You are integrated with these blood evil spirits through your own essence and blood. These blood evil spirits are a part of you. If all of them are killed here today, you, the great elder, will suffer a heavy blow. I'm afraid you won't be able to recover in 100 years. In fact, the price you mentioned before does not only refer to the sacrifice of the soul of the king of blood evil, but also the influence brought to you by the destruction of the soul of the king of blood evil. Elder, are you right about what Yi said? When Yi Tian said this, he stopped talking. He just looked coldly at the vast sea of blood in the distance. He had judged that the direction of the elder was exactly the direction he was looking at. However, the elder who was still talking before was silent and didn't say anything more. Boom. At this time, Yun Zhong used his magic power to urge the Millennium Peach Tree Thundersword to send out thunder again, attacking another Blood Evil King soul. Because he absorbed a lot of Shenyin Stone's power, the gravity field of Shenyang Stone became more and more fierce, and it became extremely difficult for the Blood Evil King soul to move a short distance in such a strong field. The ghost of the Blood Ghost King, who was struck by the thunder of the Peach Tree Thunder Sword for 1,000 years, was obviously shrunk, and the red face was full of fear and fear. Seeing this, Yi Tian's lips turned slightly up and said to himself, Elder Xianming, if his guess is right, you are also a Blood Ghost King, but you are a conscious Blood Ghost King, your cultivation level is promoted by swallowing blood evil. You want more blood evil spirits, so you choose the Luo Tianling realm. Unfortunately, now that you can't catch a chicken and eat a handful of rice, you must be in a bad mood, right? Who are you? How do you know so much? The voice of the great elder of Xianming sect sounded again, but it was obviously full of shock and confusion. At this time, Yi Tian was more sure of his guess. He looked the same and continued to say, Who is Yi? You don't deserve to ask, so put away your face. Now there is no room for negotiation. Xuanmingzong will pay a heavy price for what you have done and done. I agree to take a blood oath and leave the spirit realm of Luo Tian. I will never set foot in any spirit realm where the Xian family is. The tone of the elder of Xianming sect softened again, and his posture was very low. But Yi Tian sneered, Since you say so, Yi asked you, where are you going when you leave Luo Tian's spiritual realm? Back to time and spirit? If Ye's guess is right, the reason why Xianming sect came to Luo Tian Lingyu from Taiman Lingyu is that there are so many enemies in Taiman Lingyu, and they can't stand there, so they came to Luo Tian Lingyu, right? No matter what, we'd rather go back to the realm of time and spirit and live in anonymity. Isn't that okay? The elder of Xianming sect said pitifully. Hearing the speech, Yi Tian shook his head and said, Yi does not believe what you said. According to Yi, Xianming sect has closed the space channel from Luo Tian spirit domain to Taiman spirit domain, and it is impossible to transmit space between domains. How can you return to Taiman spirit domain? Yi Daoyu, the news is not true. It's not the case at all. We just closed the passage from the spirit realm of Taiman to the spirit realm of Luo Tian, but we didn't close the passage from the spirit realm of Luo Tian to the spirit realm of Taiman. We can go back to the spirit realm of Taiman from there. The great elder of Xianming sect explained in a hurry. Yes? Then tell me how closed it is. Yi also has a judgment to see if what you say is true or false. Yi Tian said faintly, his voice fell, and the voice of thunder splitting on the soul of Blood Evil King sounded again. The flashing electric light reflected on Yi Tian's face, which looked murderous. Yi Daoyu, are you talking to me? I've got some news that you want to go to Time and Spirit Realm from this space passage of Luotian Spirit Realm, and finally to Earth Star. I don't know much about this passage. I want to get the details from my mouth. This matter is not bad, but, Yi Dao Yu, please stop attacking the spirit of Blood Evil King immediately, we can discuss everything. At this time, if the great elder of Xianming sect knew something about it, he would feel a little stiff in his words. Yi Tian looked at the sea of blood in the distance, raised his eyebrows slightly, and his voice was still very cold. Elder Xianming, do you think you are qualified to talk with Yi? It's true that Yi wants to use the space channel, but he doesn't have to get information from you. Yi has already known the location of the Immortal Tomb and the location of the space passage. Do you think your news is still valuable? It's impossible. You can't find the Immortal Tomb, let alone know where the space passage is. I believe that many people in the spirit realm of Luotian may know the name of the land of Immortal Tomb, but few people have been there, because those who have been there can hardly come back. The elder of Xianming sect said firmly, therefore, if Yi Dao Yu wants to enter into the realm of time and spirit through the space channel, he can only cooperate with Xianming sect, and there is no other way. Yi Tian burst out laughing, since no one can come out of the Immortal Tomb, how do you people from Xianming sect come out? You can go in and out freely, don't ye have the means? What do you think is absolute? Didn't you think the underworld could kill us? Don't you think that the soul of the Blood Ghost King can be invincible? Yi Dao Yu, you don't have to tell me any more about the land of the Immortal Tomb and the space passage. Since I have promised to make a blood oath, I'd like to ask Yi Dao Yu to consider it. Otherwise, I'm afraid it won't be good for Yi Dao Yu. The great elder of Xianming sect said in a cold voice, and now there was a threat in his words. Yi Tian also looked cold, frowned slightly and said, the great elder of Xianming sect, do you think you can deceive Yi in this way? You should know the skills you cultivate. You are the soul of a blood evil king. Blood oath is useless to you. Don't you think he knows? Nonsense, how can you know? You are deceiving me. Hearing Yi Tian's words, the great elder of Xianming sect asked subconsciously, but just half of the words, he suddenly realized something and stopped there. Yi Tian laughed and said, how about it? You don't want to talk to yourself, do you? Also want to use blood oath to deceive Yi, your wishful thinking is wrong. Since Yi Dao Yu said that, is there no time to talk about it? The voice of the great elder of Xianming sect was silent for a moment and became gloomy. Boom. At this time, Yunzhong's another thunder attack killed the fourth Blood Ghost King soul. The blood light, which had shrunk into a ball, was transformed into a little streamer and dissipated in the invisible under the terrible thunder. Yi Tian glanced casually and said with a sneer, next is the fifth Blood Ghost King soul, the great elder of Xianming sect. Are you not feeling well now, are you affected? If you really want to talk, show your sincerity. Otherwise, these blood evil spirits will be killed one by one. What do you mean by sincerity? The elder of Xianming sect didn't answer immediately. He was silent for several breaths before he spoke again. Yi Tian laughed and said, if the elder is sincere, then he will withdraw the ghost domain and come to us for an interview. I remember you. Don't think you can do anything if you have the upper hand today. Since you don't give me any face, you'll have to follow the bloody revenge of Xianming sect for the rest of your life. The elder of Xianming sect put down a few cruel words, and then fell silent, never saying a word. Yi Tian doesn't care to smile, but he doesn't think so. Anyway, Yunzhong is killing the soul of Blood Evil King, and he has nothing to do. It's good to set up a set of words from the great elder of Xianming sect. It's a pity to know that this Dashang is an independent spirit of Blood Evil King, and he is not bound by the blood oath. There are not many valuable clues about the land of Immortal Tomb and the space passage to time and spiritual realm. At this time, except that Yunzhong was still urging the 1,000-year-old Peachtree Thunder Sword to kill the soul of Blood Evil King, the other directions were quiet. Within the Baji field shield, more than 30 trapped blood evil spirits no longer attack the transparent field shield, but each of them is suspended in the shield, emitting bright and flashing red light. The ghost face made of red light has no thought expression. 321 Yunzhong continuously urges the 1,000-year-old Peachtree Thunder Sword, releasing the thunder of terror again and again, and the Blood Ghost King's soul fettered by Shenyang Stone's gravity field is gradually decreasing.
Finally, the last Blood Ghost King's soul was also under the bombardment of the thunder, shrinking.
Finally, like other killed Blood Ghost King souls, it turned into innumerable streamers and dissipated from heaven and earth, and no trace could be found.
Master, the spirit of the Bloody King is really strong. If the disciples' souls are directly attacked by the thunder of this degree, it is estimated that only one thunder will disappear.
Yunzhong took a long breath and stroked the 1,000-year-old Peachtree Lei Shu sword with his hand.
Yi Tian said with a smile, the soul of Blood Evil King is refined by secret method. Of course, it's very strong. It's a pity that you didn't directly defend them against the enemy.
If you have such a chance, you will know their power better.
However, Lao Shiwu, it's hard for you this time.
Next, let others continue to use this sword to kill the spirit of Blood Evil King.
Hearing what Yi Tian said, Yunzhong nodded obediently. Well, I've consumed a lot of mana.
Although I can continue to use this sword to release thunder, the speed must be reduced.
The great elder of the Xianming sect doesn't know what other tricks there are. It seems that he won't give up. It's better for others to continue to kill the spirit of the Blood Evil King. Leave it to me. Because of the heavy mana consumption of Lei Lei insect, Xuanxie has been idle for a long time when he recovers his mana.
Hearing the conversation between Yi Tian and Yunzhong, he reaches out his hand and takes over the Millennium Peach Lei sword. He looks at it carefully and says in a soft voice, Master's treasures are endless. They always surprise people at the critical moment. Just like this wooden sword in that Shenyang stone, if our master was not here, if we were to face these tricks of Xianming sect alone, I'm afraid we would lose a lot. Therefore, in addition to improving the realm and increasing cultivation, the more extensive the experience and insight, the greater the chance of living.
The disciple is also very curious. Master is only 20 years old. How can he reach such a level? It's amazing to me. Well, don't flatter me. Send out a part of the blood evil spirit and continue to kill it. Yi Tian said with a smile, and then he gathered all his mana and walked slowly to Xianyang Stone. Now Zuan Yangxi's field is so strong that it is extremely difficult for Yi Tian to get close. But the more so, the more happy he is. On the other side, the Huanjie friars who arranged the field of the 8-pole array had suddenly removed the shield, released nearly 10 blood evil spirits, then opened it again, and still trapped the rest of the blood evil spirits in the shield. And Xuanxie has completed the master recognition of the Millennium Peach Tree Thunder Sword, and began to release the Blood Ghost King soul released by thunder. Yi Tian doesn't pay any attention to the situation of the war there. He takes 9 oxen and 2 tigers to get close to Xianyang Stone and observe it carefully. Today's Xianyang Stone has absorbed a lot of Xianying Stone energy, and the whole body has turned into dark gold, and the color is very uniform. It looks as if it was the same color originally, and it is a whole. Next to him is the monk of the spirit realm who is still looking after the Xianying Stone responsibly. If there is any Xianying Stone whose energy has been absorbed, it will be replaced immediately. Fortunately, Yi Tian got a lot of Xianying Stones under the Blood Forest, and some of the spoils he got were Xianying Stones. Otherwise, he would not be able to swallow Xianyang Stones endlessly. At least for now, the energy absorption rate of Xianyang Stone to Xianying Stone is still very fast, and there is no change before, which shows that Xianyang Stone still has a lot of room for improvement. However, Yi Tian is not sure how much Xianyang Stone absorbs in order to reach saturation state, and what degree of gravity field will be released after reaching saturation state. This kind of gravity field can be used in many places, but the problem is that the gravity field can have an impact on the place, but it also inevitably has the same impact on itself. Is there any way to make the gravity field of Xianyang Stone work only for others, but not for yourself? Yi Tian began to think. If you can really see this effect, your combat effectiveness will be greatly improved. I'm afraid that it will be extremely easy to kill Yuan Jing monks in the gravity field. After all, they are bound by the gravity field, and the other side is almost like being bound and killed by themselves. With this in mind, Yi Tian can't help but release Yuan Tianyan's eyes and carefully observe the long tentacles released from Xianyang Stone. Originally, these invisible thin lines have been extremely long. After absorbing the energy of Xianying Stone, not only the color of the thin lines has changed, but also the length has increased greatly. Having experienced the contrast between the two kinds of thin lines before and now,
Tian can naturally feel the difference in the binding force between the two kinds of thin lines. Tian tries to use a variety of methods to get rid of the shackles of the dark golden thin lines, but these lines seem to be everywhere and can't get rid of them at all. Shaking his head, Tian looks at the field shield of the bloody Ghost King. Countless slender lines bound the field shield, bound the 8 monks who arranged the field, but the lines did not penetrate the field shield, which had any impact on the blood evil spirit. This shows that as long as they contact with these dark golden lines, they will be affected by them, and this situation can't be changed. Shaking his head again, Tian gives up his unrealistic idea for the time being. He wants to be unaffected by himself and others. This idea is too whimsical. However, it is not impossible to make full use of this gravity field to take the initiative and take advantage of it. Tian began to change his mind to consider this problem. People and magic weapons must be bound in the field, and all physical things are inevitable. There is no article to do on this. What about Taoism? Tian tries to play a mana, and then observes it carefully. As soon as the mana appeared, the dark golden lines on Xianyang stone immediately twined like tentacles. The mana stagnated and slowed down. It was also affected by the gravity field. Now it seems that only sound and light are not affected by the gravity field, and thunder is light with terrible power. If you want to make good use of this field, it seems to strengthen the power of Lei's Taoist art. As for voice attack, nature is also very important. Just like the golden ball, the chanting of Buddhism can make people enter the dreamland. The gravity field and the dreamland have great potential. After pondering for a long time, Tian thought of these. As for whether he can find it intentionally in the future, it depends on chance. Now he simply puts down his mind and continues to watch the Xianyang stone devour the Xianin stone's energy. The Xianin stones are absorbed one by one and become pure white. Then they are replaced and continue to provide energy. Tian takes a look at the remaining Xianin stones. There are not many left. There are still some in Xumi commandment, but the number is not very large. However, the absorption speed of Xianyang stones is still not slowing down under the light of Yuan Tian's eyes. It seems that these Xianin stones may not be able to feed Xianyang stones. Tian thinks anxiously. Tian took out all the Xianin stones and put them beside the Xianyang stones. There was a big pile on the pile of Xianin stones. There are so many more. The monk of Washington, who had been calculating the value of Xianin stone before, couldn't help looking back when he saw that Tian had taken out so many Xianin stones. In his eyes, it seemed that every fist-sized Xianin stone could be regarded as 10,000 immortal jade. Such a huge value of Xianin stone really shocked him. Tian feels funny in his heart, but he doesn't pay attention to the man. He breaks through the barrier of gravity field, grabs a piece of Xianin stone that has been absorbed completely, and holds it in his hand to play and watch repeatedly. The remains of Xianin stone are snow white. It looks like jade without any impurities, but its weight is much lighter than before. Tian felt that there was no aura in it. Although it looked like Xianyu, it didn't have the value of Xianyu. He used Yuantianian again to observe carefully, but found that there was a kind of bright and luminous dots inside the white stone, which were arranged irregularly, as if it were inlaid with small diamonds. He pinched the remains of the Xianin stone hard. Although his strength has reached more than 200,000 kilograms, the remains of the Xianin stone are still without any damage or even cracks. Tian moves in his heart, puts the remains of this Xianin stone aside, and then picks up another Xianin stone of about the same size, which is dark and has never been absorbed by Xianyang stone. He still pinched it with all his strength, with a click. When he gathered all his strength, a crack appeared in the Xianin stone, like a lightning with many ends. However, the whole Xianin stone did not disintegrate, but the crack was extremely obvious. Tian looks at the dark Xianin stone in his hand and nods to himself. It can be seen that after the Xianyang stone absorbs the energy inside, the debris of the Xianin stone is much harder than the original Xianin stone. As for how hard Tian is, it's hard to judge. After all, he hasn't destroyed the wreck, and he doesn't know the strength limit it can bear. With this discovery alone, Tian felt that the remains of Xianin stone might not be useless. No matter what, they can't be discarded for the time being. However, he once again used his distant eye to look at the Xianin stone,
which was cracked by him. No matter from which angle he looked, he could see the dark color, and did not find any shining dots in the wreckage. However, Tian still does not give up. He gradually looks at it layer by layer, looking for whether there are some black light spots in it. He thinks that maybe it is because the originally black light spots become white light spots after being engulfed by Shenyang stone, but the fact denies his idea. This situation does not exist. Inside Shenyang stone, no matter from which angle, no matter in which position, the inside of the stone is extremely smooth, without any abnormal structure. Tian is very strange. He is close to a Shenyang stone that is being absorbed by Shenyang stone. Shi Zhenyuan's heavenly eye looks inside the Shenyang stone. A moment later, Tian's face appeared a sudden color, and then his hand touched his chin to ponder. Through Yuan Tian's observation, he saw that those bright spots were not possessed by Shenyang stone itself, but were swallowed by Shenyang stone from Shenyang stone. That is to say, through contact between Shenyang stone and Shenyang stone absorbs the black color of Shenyang stone and increases or decreases the weight field. Shenyang stone is not obtained by one thing, and the crystal of these bright crystals is obtained from Shenyang stone. Tian feels that things are not as simple as he thought. Since Shenyang stone can get such great benefits, will this kind of crystal be a wonderful treasure? But it's not suitable to study too much now. Fortunately, a small piece of Shenyang stone was absorbed on the sea before, and its remains were also kept. So I simply collected all the Shenyang stone remains here, and I will study them later. However, no matter what is inside, Tian has determined that these wrecks are of great value. Even if they are only used to refine magic weapons, they are also rare hard materials. Next, Tian pays attention to the absorption of Shenyang stone by Shenyang stone, and at the same time, he pays attention to the use of the Millennium Peachtree Thunder Sword to kill the Blood Evil King soul. The mysterious crack is the peak cultivation of transforming the divine realm, which is higher than Yunzhong. The power of Leishu's sword is more powerful in his hands. Thunderbolts are emitted from Leishu's sword, and every 3 flashes of lightning will kill a bloody king soul. The souls of the Blood Ghost King were killed one by Xuanxie, but the elder of Shenming sect never made any more sound, as if he had left. This is a bit unexpected for Tian. Did the great elder of Shenming sect really give up the blood evil spirit accumulated over countless years? However, the fact is that Tian does not believe it. After all the released blood evil spirits were killed by Xuanxie, the general blood evil spirits were released when the field shield of the 8-pole array was removed. Xuanxie continued to destroy them one by one. The elder of Shenming sect still didn't make any sound. Even after Alchemy killed these blood evil spirits and completely removed the field of the 8-pole array, all the remaining blood evil spirits were not killed, and the great elder of Xuanmingzong still did not appear again. At this time, Tian's eyes are dignified. There are only 2 reasons for this situation. One is that the great elder of Shenming sect has fled. The other is that the great elder of Shenming sect has given up the blood ghost and made other preparations. If you just want to escape, then the great elder of Shenming sect doesn't have to run so early. Even after he killed all the blood evil spirits, they are still surrounded by the ghost realm. At that time, the great elder of Shenming sect still has enough chance to escape. At least he can let the other disciples of Xuanmingzong leave first, and it can have enough time to leave at any time. According to the character of the great elder of Shenming sect, if he was still watching outside the ghost territory when he killed the last 2 blood evil spirits, he would not be indifferent. At least they would have a good time and threaten themselves, but in fact nothing happened. What's the next step, master? After killing so many blood evil spirits by himself, Xuanxie seems very excited. He walks slowly to Tian with a 1,000-year-old Peachtree Thundersword and asks. For the time being, monks in the same place will break down the ghost realm after the Holy Wing people and Late Song have all recovered. Old 14, you also need to have a rest, recover your mana, and try to keep it in full swing at any time. Those children who set up the regular field of the 8-pole array also need to recover. Tian glanced at Shenyang stone, which was still absorbing the energy of Shenyang stone, and said so. All at master's command. Xuanzhan didn't hesitate. After saying this, he took out a magic cave and asked the children who needed to recover their magic power to go in. The flow rate of magic cave was twice as long,
and the recovery time could be reduced by half. At this time, it was time to fight for time. Naturally, he would not waste this ready-made resource. Yi Tian also took out the magic weapon cave and let Kunlun Xiu enter it. On the other hand, he watched Shenyang Stone absorb the energy of Xianyin Stone, and on the other hand, he observed the situation around him carefully, fearing that Xianming Sek would do some more tricks. Little by little, everything was quiet and nothing unusual happened. At a certain moment, a monk in the spirit realm nodded at Yi Tian and called, "Master Yi." Yi Tian turns his head to see it. In fact, he doesn't need to be called by that person. Yi Tian is also paying close attention to the situation there. Shenyang Stone has been used up completely, and the whole Shenyang Stone is still the color of dark gold, which hasn't changed much from before. However, Yi Tian noticed that although the color did not change, the gravity field released by Zuanyangshi was always getting stronger, and the speed of absorbing the energy of Zuanyangshi did not change. In this way, Shenyang Stone still has a lot of room for absorption. I'm afraid there are not a lot of Shenyang Stones that can't feed Shenyang Stone. Don't know, completely saturated Shenyang Stone will be able to achieve what degree? Yi Tian heart is full of expectations. It's a pity that Shenyang Stone is a rare treasure. Although there are more than 1,000 pieces of Shenyang Stone flowing out of the Lansang spiritual realm, it's obvious that those fist-sized Shenyang Stones can't satisfy the current Shenyang Stones. But now Yi Tian can't do anything about it. He puts away all the remains of Shenyang Stone and asks people to help put Shenyang Stone back into Shumi commandment. Then he begins to wait quietly. Time passed bit by bit, more than 2 hours passed unconsciously. After the Shenyang Stone was put away, everyone, including Yi Tian, felt relaxed. Even though the waiting seemed boring, people still felt that this relaxed feeling was much more wonderful than being in the gravity field. In these 2 hours, others didn't feel anything, but Yi Tian made another important discovery. That is to say, he feels that his speed has been improved. Although it is very insignificant, the improvement is obvious to Yi Tian, who is very sensitive. The speed of this kind of promotion has never been before, the feeling of floating in lightness between walking, as if the bones are light. At the beginning, Yi Tian thought that it was the illusion caused by two different gravity contrasts that suddenly separated from the gravity field. But as he kept feeling it, and as he left the Zuanyangshi gravity field for more and more time, Yi Tian was more sure of the fact that the speed had increased. If it is really affected by the difference of gravity field, as a monk who has reached the Longmen realm, it should be completely eliminated in a short time, but in fact, this feeling is different from before. In the end, Yi Tian finally confirmed his guess. Does the gravity field of Shenyang Stone still have the effect of increasing speed? Yi Tian observes his body through Yuantianian, but unfortunately he has no other unexpected discovery. And he saw that the rest of the people were also in the gravity field, but they didn't seem to be aware of anything unusual, as if they didn't feel any changes before and after entering the gravity field. This also makes Yi Tian feel a little inconceivable. He is usually very sensitive to his own subtle changes when he reaches the level of transforming the divine realm. He observes everyone carefully, and they all seem to have no feeling. And Yi Tian also observed their actions at the same time, and found nothing abnormal. Does the acceleration of velocity in the gravity field only happen to us? Based on these circumstances, Yi Tian had to make such a guess. After all, he had many special points compared with other monks. No matter what, when it's convenient to take out the Shenyang Stone and test it again, you will know whether it's true or false. The Shenyang Stone is right next to you. As long as you have enough people to help you, you can take it out. When Yi Tian thinks about it, his brow is slightly wrinkled. It seems that he has a high-level monk he can trust except in the Lanshan and Luotian spiritual regions. He may not be able to meet him in the future. Moreover, once you return to the Earth Star, I'm afraid that Kunlun and the dead will be the only monks with the highest level of cultivation by then, and you have to make preparations for this. So thinking, Yi Tian began to calculate slowly. After a while, his thought was interrupted, and Xianchan and the monks who entered the cave came out. Master, our mana has almost recovered, and we can take the next step. Yi Tian took a look at Xuanxie and others, nodded slightly and said, let's start like this, old rule. Old 14 commands Lei Zhua, old 15 uses Lei Zhua sword, and attacks field runes according to my positioning. Boom.
Boom.
Now the action, completely rely on a word of Yi Tian, he how to command nature did not say a word. With the thunder balls in his hand, a series of terrible thunders were sent out. On the surface, it seemed that all of them were hit in the air, but under Yi Tianyuan's eye, those red field runes began to be destroyed one by one and disappeared. The Qingming space opened up by thunder is getting bigger and bigger, and the world is becoming clearer and clearer. But compared with the vast sea of blood and clouds, the space opened up by thunder is really insignificant. It seems that there are boundless ghosts all around, but the space opened up by Yi Tian is the world, and the scope occupied by the ghosts is still boundless, which looks particularly terrible. When Yi Tian took people to smash the red field rune, it was strange that the great elder of Xianming sect never appeared again, as if he had completely disappeared from here. Not only did he not appear, but he didn't even seem to have left behind.
The process of destroying the red field rune went smoothly without any interference.
However, as time goes by, after countless field runes are removed, the space to restore the pure brightness becomes larger and larger. On the contrary, the monks of the Xians and Yuns are not calm. All around, compared with the space for the restoration of Qingming, it is still a boundless behemoth. At a glance, it is a sea of blood and clouds, a miserable scene of ghosts in the world. Even if it can be broken smoothly, it still needs so much energy and time.
If you are really in it and trapped by the magic array, no one can be confident that you will be able to come out alive.
With the time of breaking the field longer and longer, their awe of Yi Tian becomes more and more obvious. When they look at Yi Tian again, it seems that they are not looking at a person, but a god.
A magical young monk close to God.
Time passed in a hurry in a tense and busy way. The monks who used the Millennium Peachtree Lei Shu sword changed again and again. The thunder attack of Lei Shu's sword never stopped.
But the thunder bug can't do it.
After a period of thunder power, these thunder bugs will stop and rest for a period of time to recover their mana. This high-intensity attack is really difficult for these bugs. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days as time goes by, more and more Qingming areas have been opened up, and the action of breaking down the ghost area continues to advance. After several days of continuous progress, Yi Tian has made some unexpected discoveries. He found that in the process of repeatedly releasing the power of thunder, although the level of their own cultivation did not improve, the power of thunder released gradually became stronger. Based on Yi Tian's sensitivity to Kung Fu, he judged that up to now, the attack power of these thunder bugs has increased by at least 20%. In order to have such a degree of ascension, Lei Leichong can only have such an ascension if he has an adverse chance, or if he has to ascend to a certain high level. Because the spirit insects themselves don't take the initiative to cultivate, their natural power is the instinct inspired by absorbing the aura of heaven and earth through countless years. Frequent and fierce fighting can increase their fighting experience and sense of danger, but it is absolutely impossible to improve their strength in a short time.
Can actually be so. Yi Tian also can't help feeling curious.
While constantly popping the thunderball, guiding the thunder insects and the Millennium Peachtree Thunder Sword to destroy the red field runes, Yi Tian uses the Source Sky Eye magic power to observe the thunder insects.
This is the first time that he has used Yuan Tianian to observe these insects. Sure enough,
as Yi Tian expected, the thunder and lightning power of Lei Lei insect has become stronger, which is really due to other external factors. Under the light of Yuan Tian's eye, we can see white gas coming from the distance to 16 Leishmaniasis insects.
They are only inhaled by the wings of Leishmaniasis insects. The Leishmaniasis insects inhale the white gas and are obviously excited. When he couldn't see the gas, Yi Tian only regarded the excitement of Lei Lei as the agitation when he attacked.
Now it seems that he was wrong at the beginning. It seems that those Liocarps are very fond of the white gas. As the white gas continuously flows into their bodies, they become more and more excited. Yi Tianshan looked in the direction of the white gas, but he saw that the white gas was emitted from the Millennium Peach Thunder Sword not far away. When he was about to watch carefully, the white gas suddenly disappeared, and no trace could be found. Yi Tian frowned and looked at the Thunder Sword, which was used by a monk of the Cloud family.
He just sent out a thunder attack and hit it on a red rune.
When the white gas disappears, it is just the moment when the lightning strikes on the field rune and then disappears from the sword body.
Is it the white gas produced in this way?
Yi Tian already had a guess in the heart, but after all, still need to try again. At this time, Tian bends his finger again and shoots a thunderball at a red field rune under Tian's eye. Then, Tian's focus turned to the Millennium Peachtree Lei Shu sword. At this time, Lei Shu's sword was still normal, and did not emit the white gas Tian saw. But as the monk with the sword was urged by his magic power, a terrible thunder appeared out of thin air from Lei Shu's sword, and that kind of white gas really appeared. White gas and thunder appeared at the same time, and then spread to all directions. However, after flying out of the sword, it turned into 16 strands of white gas and was absorbed by 16 thunder insects. It's obvious that this is done by Lei Chong intentionally. The truth came to the surface, and Tian couldn't help smiling. Some smart little guys, this invisible and invisible gas that can't be seen by the naked eye can be found by them, and they use their means to absorb it. It seems that their wisdom is not low. After that, Tian made a careful observation. It's true that only when the Millennium Peachtree Thunder Sword thundered, the white gas would be produced. The rest of the time, there was no such phenomenon. It should still be related to the attribute of thunder. Tian couldn't understand the principle for a moment, so he could only guess in this aspect. Seeing this situation, he couldn't help but feel lucky. If it hadn't been for today's situation, I'm afraid he would not have found the connection between the Millennium Peachtree Lei Shu sword and Lei Shu insect, and would not have determined some things related to the gravity field between Xianyin stone and Xianyang stone so early. Now that I know it, I have a number of things in mind, so I can make some preparations in advance. Moreover, he was still looking forward to the 16 fifth-order Leishuat insects. After returning to the Earth star, he wanted to find a way to recognize the Lord, and then fed pills to make the insects mutate and increase their combat effectiveness. Now there is another way to increase the combat effectiveness. At that time, it was a great joy. Moreover, the increase of combat effectiveness without the increase of their own realm did not increase the difficulty of recognizing the Lord. They just took this opportunity to strengthen their thunder power. So he made a decision. Tian asked Xuanxie to move 16 Lei insects closer to Lei's sword, so as to better absorb the white chi from the peach sword. Although I don't understand what Master's intention is, Xianchan doesn't have any delay, so he does it immediately. With Tian's constant guidance, Lei insect and Lei Jian bombard those field runes continuously. A channel to restore the pure and bright world extends forward in the vast sea of blood and clouds, and goes deeper and deeper. It's like a lonely army going deep, and there's no end to it. Time passed unconsciously, until the 5th day. With a red field rune destroyed by the power of thunder, the world suddenly changed, the vast sea of blood and clouds in front suddenly disappeared, and the whole world returned to normal. Qianfeng is a high mountain. It is surrounded by endless mountains. The sky is blue, the clouds are white, the mountain wind is gusty, the birds are chirping. It's a picturesque scenery. Suddenly seeing such a scene, the monks of the Xian family and the Yin family could not help but look nervous and began to be on guard. They had been in the sea of blood for a long time and were suddenly exposed to the normal world. They were obviously not used to it. Tian is the same. After careful observation, he didn't find any abnormality or feel any danger. Then, Tian raised his eyebrows slightly and observed the peak in front of him. The mountain is extremely towering. There are many buildings on the mountain. The buildings and halls are scattered all over the mountain. There are many courtyards on the mountain, which are arranged in dense or scattered places. Then he released his mind and carefully observed the details of the mountain. After feeling it, Tian looked at Xuanxie and Yunzhong. Seeing the master's eyes, Xuanxie nodded slightly and said, "I have checked with my mind. There is no one in it." "Yes, from the plaque, it is the gate of Xianning sect," he added. Tian nodded slightly, waved his hand and said, "It seems that the people of Xuanningzong have fled. Follow me to have a look." With that, Tian flew to the peak first. He was not fast. He was flying while he was looking at it carefully. But he didn't find any field until he reached the peak. Somewhere on the mountain, he waved to the crowd to stop for a moment. He flew up a certain distance with Xuanxie and Yunzhong, and flew to the top of the mountain. Looking down at the whole mountain from above, he did not find any field. "All right, check it out and see if there is any valuable discovery." Make sure there is no layout field, Yi Tian completely relieved, then to Xian Crack and Cloud Zhong command Wei.
Xuanxie conveys Yi Tian's order.
Many monks of Xuanjia and Yunjia disperse to cover the whole Xianming sect and begin to search carefully. Mr. Yi, Mr. Yun and the owner of the house have not found anything of value, no resources, no books or jade slips.
This is an empty mountain.
All the buildings are empty, not even a dog. Soon, Xianjun and other Xuanjia friars came back to report. Before long, a group of people from the Cloud family also came to Yitian, Xuanxie and Yunzhong. They didn't find anything, let alone find out the whereabouts of the Xianming sect. The rest of them returned one after another. Like the previous two groups, they didn't find anything valuable, but they took back some old clothes, and even a monk took a futon. Yi Tian just took a look, then waved, let them throw away. In this case, we can see how clean the people of Xuanmingzong were.
It was a thorough move.
Go. Standing on the top of the mountain, Yi Tian pondered for a moment. Suddenly, his eyes were fixed and he drank, go to the Xuanjia branch. Yes, they probably went to the branch of the Xuanjia family. Xuanxie heard the words, changed his look and said aloud.
Disciples know the way, master, and disciples come.
With these words, Xuanxie flies to a certain direction first. Yi Tian takes out Dun Tiansua and steps into it, then follows closely. They turned into countless meteors, quickly passed through the sky and fled to the distance. One day later, in a big mountain more than 3,000 miles away from the abyss of the space passage, the dark crack stopped and looked at a stretch of coal in front of him. His face was very blue. According to the memory of soul searching, the original name of this mountain depression is Xianqing Valley. It is a building community stretching for tens of miles, and the side branch of Xuanjia is located here. Although it is a side branch, the Xuanjia family is powerful and has a large population, with a total number of tens of thousands of people.
In the past, it was almost a holy place in the spirit realm of Luotian. It was a high-level monk who had a great reputation in the spirit realm of Luotian.
When he came here, he had to salute and ask for a meeting. Now, in front of you, there are still ruins everywhere, a piece of scorched earth, and even wisps of smoke curling up in some ruins. Countless corpses are mixed in the ruins of the building, which looks like hell on earth.
The crowd quietly looked at the scene in front of them.
After a moment, Xinyan carefully examined all the cracks in the area, and shook his head, there is no living one. Xuanmingzong did a great job this time.
Yi Tian nodded silently, and the result of his examination was the same.
With a gesture, a figure appeared in front of him. It was Xian Run, the new leader of the side branch of the Xuanjia family, who was taken into the spirit beast bag by him.
This is... Master, why are you suffering?
Although the side branch of the Xians betrayed the Xian's lineage, there is no need to wipe out the whole side branch. Seeing the miserable scene in the valley, Xian Run could not help but feel sad and said that his eyes looking at the ruins were dull, his lips were trembling, and he was staring at the ruins somewhere, and he didn't know whose name he was mumbling.
If you want to come, there must be his family living there.
At this time, Xuanxia's eyes were full of cold color. He pointed to the ruins and said, Xian Run, open your eyes and have a look.
This is the Xianming sect you have made. They have given you such a big gift. Are you satisfied now? As a result, you are responsible as the successor. Why am I to blame? I Xian Run just became the family leader for a few days? Everything before was done by Xuanfu.
Xian Run said aloud, his voice choked.
I'll tell you what's wrong with you. You don't know who you are.
You know that Xuanmingzong is unreliable, and you swing from side to side.
Second, when Xuanmingzong colludes with Xuanfu, you dare say that you don't have any chance to report to Xuanjia in Lancang's spiritual realm, but did you go?
Third, the Xians are arrogant.
They think that they don't even have the most basic protection field in Luotian Lingyu? After taking over the family, do you think your people will be in danger?
Xian Crack drinks allowed to ask away. Xian Crack of these several even asked Xian Run speechless, she moved lips, just did not say a word. Xuanxie continued, originally, I had been hesitant about how to deal with the Xian family's side branches. Now it's okay, it saves a lot of trouble.
Your ally Xuanmingzong has made a choice. Xianrun, don't look at me like this. Do you think I'm blaming Zuanmingzong? Xianrun shook his head blankly and said, Master, can I resume my cultivation temporarily? I want to have a look in the valley. Xuanxie thought about it a little, hit Xianrun with several successive manas, and lifted the ban on his body. Once the ban was solved, Xianrun immediately took something out of Zumaji, took a look at it and put it away. Then, with a flash of his body, he shot away at the ruins he had been looking at. Shenmeng and Xianjun just want to follow this man, but they are stopped by Xuanxie. At the same time, they shake their heads, indicating that they don't care about Xianrun. In front of the ruins, Xianrun continued to exert his magic power. Under the sway of the magic power, the bricks and stones flew around one after another, just like a rain of bricks and stones. More than 10 minutes later, he turned over the ruins and the attached ruins. He carefully identified all the bodies he found, and only after he was sure that there was no one he wanted to find, he put them down. Then, with a flash of his body, he went to another ruins not far away. After a lot of searching, he went to another place to continue searching. After more than 10 times of this, Xianrun flashed back and knelt down in front of Xuanxie. Master, the main members of the side branch didn't find the body. They should have been captured by the people of Xianming sect. Please try to rescue the family. Xianrun is willing to accept the ban planted by the family. If he can save the people of the other branches, he will be cut to pieces afterwards. Xian Crack is cold hum away. Xianrun, according to Xian family rules, betray the family, will die. Your result has been doomed, 1,000 cuts will not, but your life should come to an end. Everyone is responsible for what they do. Master, please. Even if you want to kill Xianrun, you have to wait until Xianrun saves the people. If the family leader doesn't want to give help to those who have been convicted, Xianrun asks the family leader to allow me to go alone. Even if I die, I will die on the way to save the people. Xianrun kneels on the ground and kowtows to Xuanxie. The Xian Crack just wants to say what, but the leaf day is to Xian Crack to make a wink. The Xian Crackborn swallow the words behind, toward the leaf day nod. Yi Tian came to Xianrun and asked, Xianrun, you are trying to save the Hui people. Do you know where your people are? Master Yi, please, let me save the people. Although I don't know where the people are, I can trace them. I have a way to trace them. Xianrun saw that it was Yi Tian, and he kept begging. How can you trace it? Talk to Yi Tian, smell speech, eyes a bright ground say. Xianrun gestured and took out a small mirror-like thing from his Shumi commandment, which flashed in front of Yi Tian. Yi Tian recognized it. It was the thing Xianrun took out to look at before he went to the ruins. This thing is transparent, oblate, closed on all sides, hollow inside, with a drop of dark red liquid, which looks like a drop of blood. Master Yi. Master. This is a drop of blood essence of dog Xuanpu. I refined it by chance after I got a method of blood induction. Through this, I can roughly trace the dog's location. Now this drop of blood essence, as usual, shows that the dog is still alive. This drop of blood essence connects with the center, which is where the dog is. No matter how the induction disc turns, the blood essence will point to the same direction. If you don't believe me, please have a look. As he spoke, Xianrun continued to rotate the transparent induction disc. Sure enough, no matter how the induction disc rotates, the drop of blood essence is also rotating at the same speed, and the connection with the center of the induction disc always points to the same direction. Xianrun continued, it's just like this. The blood sensor can only sense the direction of the dog, but it can't sense how far away it is. Once it's over his position, the sensor's direction will be displayed, so the orientation of the dog can be basically determined by the sensor. Please allow Xianrun to rescue him. If he and his family leader can help, Xianrun is willing to die and make the rescued people accept any punishment from the clan rules. Xuanxie pondered, according to the clan rules, once the betrayal of the family is verified, it must be executed immediately. But you still have a feeling for the clansman. I allow you to see the clansman before you die. Call out the sensor disc, and I will naturally find the people of other branches for you, and rescue them together. Xianrun felt happy on his face and quickly handed over the induction disc to Xuanxie.
but he said, to the master, this induction disc is extremely special. Only the lineal blood relatives within 2 generations hold it in their hands can it work. If you don't believe me, look, the drop of blood essence of the dog has returned to the center of the sensor disc, so it can't be traced. Smell speech, Shin Crack saw an induction dish. If so, that drop of blood essence really returned to the center of the induction dish. He once searched Shenron's soul, but he lived for countless years and experienced a vast amount of things. It's impossible for him to look at Xuanxia one by one. What he mainly looked at was what happened after Xuanmingzong entered the spirit realm of Luotian and had an intersection with the side branches of Shenron's family, so he didn't know much about some things before. It will take a long time to read all the memories. I didn't expect that you could have such a plan. You made a blood sensor disc in advance. What you were afraid of was that your son might have an accident, so you could track his whereabouts? Shen cracked the induction dish. Returned Shenron, ask away. Since it doesn't work, I have to keep his life for the time being to track down the people of Shin Ming's sect. Who knows? Hearing Shen crack asked casually, Shenron turned red and said, but the master didn't dare to hide something. The following are all answers according to the facts. The dog was born to a Taoist, but he looks nothing like me. Shenron suspects that he didn't come from himself, but he didn't look for any evidence. So I made this blood sensor disc. As a result, after a try, I really felt something. That's why I got my doubts. Hearing the speech, everyone looked at each other and laughed. Only after Shen Meng heard it, he burst out laughing and made Shenron embarrassed. Xuanxia put away his smile and said to Shenron, you are very careful. However, I warn you that if you play those thoughts with us again, I will certainly be skinny and cramped. It's a disaster for all the other clansmen. You can't die well. Shen Crack said very seriously, and his face was also very gloomy. Hearing the words, Shenron could not help but reply with a look of awe-inspiring, Shenron dare not, no matter what, he is grateful for the help of the master. After that, he will deal with it with the master. Although Shenron died, he is also grateful for the great kindness of the master. However, it should not be too late. Shall we start now to look for the side branch people? Are you anxious to find your son? You always talk to the people of the Pangji. Shen Crack cold hum away. Shenron was shocked and quickly lowered his head. What the owner said is not entirely true. Shenron is really concerned about the people of his family, but it's human nature that dogs are in the most important position. If the owner doesn't believe it, you can search the soul to see. To show loyalty, Shenron tells the truth about the inspection of parents and children. What else does the owner don't believe? Xuanxia nodded and said, it's true. I'm planting a ban on you now. But don't worry, it won't affect your cultivation and strength, but if you have 2 hearts, I will trigger the prohibition, and then you will know what kind of prohibition it is. Shenron is willing to be forbidden by his master. His life and death are entirely decided by his master's one thought. He never dares to have 2 hearts. From now on, he will be loyal to Shenron's family, even if he goes up the Sword Mountain and down the Sea of Fire. Without waiting for Shenron to finish, Xuanxia stopped in a cold voice and said, okay, how can you get so much nonsense? Then he clapped his hand on Shenron's head, and then sent out several magic powers to hit him. Then he said, well, the ban has been planted. Now let's go. The other side didn't express enough goodwill, but Xuanzhan didn't say too much. He also said, it's true that a big thing happened, as Master Sima said. If there is no too important thing, Xuanmo will not come to such a remote place as Luotian Lingyu. Master Sima must have known that Shenron was a member of the Xin family in the Lansang spiritual realm. But recently, the Xin family was bloodwashed, killed and injured countless people, and some of them were taken away. Fortunately, Shenron has a magic weapon called the blood sensor disc, which can sense the location of the captives. We followed the direction of the blood sensor disc and found it all the way. We didn't expect to enter your clan. It's really impolite. Although he was polite, when Xuanxia said these words, he was looking at Sima Chankon's reaction with burning eyes, and his face was also a little gloomy. Hearing this, Sima Chankon was obviously shocked. He naturally exchanged his eyes with several fellow monks around him.
Then he turned his head and looked at Xuanxue. According to the Xian master's idea, the direction of the blood sensor disc is the clan? Xian Run, show the blood induction disc to Master Sima. Xian Crack did not directly answer Sima Changkong's question, but said to Xian Run. Xian Run heard the command of Xuanxue, holding the blood induction disc with one hand, and showed himself in a straight line with the center of the circle and the local essence in blood. Take a drop of extremely conspicuous red blood essence, point to the direction is aimed at Sima Changkong. The direction of reality from the blood sensor disc is just ahead. Then Xian Run explained. Sima Changkong drew back his eyes from the blood induction plate, and his face became obviously dignified. The meaning of the master of the Xian family is that the people of the side branch of the Xian family were abducted by our sect, and the blood case of the side branch of the Xian family is also for our sect? As soon as he raised his eyelids, his eyes were full of light, and he replied with dignity, "What Master Sima said is a bit arbitrary. I just follow the direction of the blood sensor disc, but this sensor disc can only sense the direction of the target, and can't lock the specific position. If the blood sensor disc crosses the nameless island and still points forward, it means that it is not on the island. Naturally, I and others will not disturb your sex Qingxiu, and will continue to look for the direction guided by the blood sensor disc. As for who did it and who captured the people of the Xian family, I naturally have a way to find out the truth." Sima Changkong nodded and said, "In this way, I will understand the meaning of Master Xian. Originally, Master Xian's party was a rare guest. I should have invited him to the island to do my best. But since Master Xian has something important, I'm sorry to wait for you." After that, Sima Changkong gave way to the side and gave way to the front position. The 15 monks and nuns who came with him later also moved to the side with Sima Changkong. "Since Master Sima is so magnanimous, I'll see you later." Seeing this situation, Xuanxue said a polite word and flew forward first. The rest of the people also flew to the huge shadow of the nameless island behind Xuanxue. Yi Tian follows Shan Crack body side. The vision took back from the immortal road zone public body, on the face peeped out to have a thoughtful look. When Xuanxue and Sima Changkong answered correctly, he always consciously or unconsciously observed the expression changes of the other people. I don't know whether the other party's city is really deep, or whether the side branch of the Xian family really has nothing to do with the immortal sect. With Yi Tian's eye power, he didn't find any flaws in the other party. Although the people of Xiandazong were surprised to hear about the side branch of the Xian family, this kind of reaction was completely within the normal range. If they heard such shocking news, the other party would be indifferent. On the contrary, it means there is a problem. After all, although the side branch of the Xians is only a small branch of the Xians in the Lansang spiritual realm, it is a big force on an equal footing with the Xiandazong in the Lansang spiritual realm. After that, there was no doubt about the expression of the immortal sect. Originally, Yi Tian felt that it must have been done by Zuanmingzong. Through the present observation, he was more certain. Xuanxue and others continued to fly forward. Sima Changkong and others of Xiandazong flew out of a certain distance. Only then did they turn their direction and fly to the direction of Nameless Island. The two groups of people kept a certain distance apart. They didn't show their surveillance and prevention to the Xian family, but they were far enough to react and deal with the unexpected changes. On this point, Yi Tian also did not find any problems. If he was himself, he might deal with it in the same way. What's more, Yi Tian is still observing each other's reaction until now. If they act more realistically in front of each other, in private, out of the sight of the Xian family, they will surely be careless and show some flaws. Of course, Yi Tian will not look back and look around, nor release his mind to observe, because under the other party's protection, once someone's mind is detected, the other party will surely be aware of it. What's more, the white-haired Sima Changkong's self-cultivation has reached the realm of great perfection, which is almost the same as that of Xian Crack. It is definitely not a simple person to reach such a state in the spirit realm of Luo Tian. Moreover, the other 15 people's realm is also quite low, and the lowest one is the nun, who also has the cultivation of transforming the middle of the divine realm. There is absolutely no problem if you want to investigate the spiritual thoughts of the monks who are in the divine realm. Not to mention Yi Tian's late cultivation in Longmen realm. Yi Tian can see each other's expression and reaction, is through his secretly released Liangxingkong view.
Through Liang Xingkong's inspection, Yi Tianming observes each monk's expression change. Among those people, some were gloomy, some resentful, but some had a clear conscience.
But that Sima Changkong was expressionless and could not see what he was thinking. These are all normal expressions. Everyone's different reactions only show that they have different personalities and different levels of city.
Old 14th, there's a defense field in front of him.
It's open. You can't see it with the naked eye.
After flying over the nameless island for hundreds of miles, Yi Tian suddenly sends a message to the mysterious crack. More than 10 miles ahead, there is a large area of forest with rare species. Among the trees, there are many houses, which occupy a large area. Obviously, it was the residence of the monks who were disciples of Xiandazon. Moreover, the architectural community has been extending from there to the distance, and you can't see the edge at a glance, especially the mountains on several islands in the distance, and the houses on them are more tall and luxurious.
It should be the ruthlessness of Xiandazon.
Hearing Yi Tian's voice, the speed of the dark crack slowed down a little, and his eyes were shining in front of him. Unfortunately, with his naked eyes, he didn't find anything. At this time, Sima Changkong sped up his escape speed and came to the side of Xuanxie. He also stopped about 5 zhang away.
Master Xian, it seems that the direction of the blood sensor disc is still ahead?
He glanced at the blood sensor disc in Xianrun's hand and said with a frown.
Suzor and Sima also saw it, which is exactly the case.
Xian Crack is also to see one-eye blood vein induction dish, tiny nod to return away. We are isolated overseas and have many enemies, so our ancestors set up a strong defense field to protect our disciples. Now one of the ancestors of our sect is closed and can't be interfered with by the outside world, so I'm sorry that the field of our sect can't be closed.
Please forgive me, Master Xuanzong. Next, please take a detour.
Sima Changkong pointed to the distance and said in a soft or hard tone. Then he added, this field is extremely fierce. If a Taoist friend enters it by mistake, I'm afraid that even the strong men of Xiandazon, such as Lao Fu, can't help in time. They specially informed the Xian family leader.
Xuanxie took a look at Sima Changkong, then turned to look at the houses in the distance, and finally nodded, so good, I'll take a detour.
With that, he moved and flew in the direction. The crowd naturally followed behind and left, but Yi Tian took back his eyes from the defense field in the distance, with a thoughtful look in his eyes. Zuanchiko said, but his hand was not stopped, a flying sword appeared and disappeared to attack Sima Changkong.
Everyone, stop it.
At this time, Yi Tian yelled. Although it was only the cultivation of longmen, his voice was so loud that everyone was shocked. Hearing the news, Xuanxie and Yunzhong withdrew, and the rest of the Xuanjie and Yunjie children also withdrew. Xiandazon people also stopped, their hands gathered together, a pair of ready appearance. This time, however, it was different from before. The people of Xiandazon were full of curiosity and shock when they looked at Yi Tian. Originally, they thought that Xuanxie said that Yi Tian was his master, but now it seems that among the group of Xuanjie friars, this young man with the cultivation of Longmen realm is the real principal.
It's absolutely incredible. It's the same in Lanzhong and Luotian.
In all the world of cultivation, the strong are respected. But why can this young man command so many monks in the Dragon's Gate? It's better to explain if others call him Xiao Zhu or something.
However, it's a big joke to be a master of a monk in the spirit realm.
Seeing that both sides stopped, Yi Tian flew up a certain height to make himself in a very eye-catching position, and then said, you Taoist friends of Xiandazon, the Xians are not without the strength to kill you. If you think these people have little advantage over you, you are very wrong. I can tell you very clearly that I destroyed Xianming's sect a few days ago. The remaining evils of Xianming's sect gave up the sect and disappeared. And we have no casualties. If you think these are not enough, the Xians can come back at any time to cultivate a large number of monks in the divine realm until they destroy your immortal sect. But we are not prepared to do so. Now is the last chance. If you are preventing us from rescuing the Xuanjia people, then only the swordsmen can meet each other. That's right, but even though you are from the Xians of Lanzhong, you can't do anything in Xiandazon. Xiandazon has been handed down for countless years. Even if we suffer heavy losses in this war, we will fight for our dignity.
We will never let you Xuanjia bully us at will. Sima Changkong stroked his white beard for a moment and said.
Smell speech, Yi Tian sends out a sneer. In this case, Yi Mao thinks the person of Xian family's side branch is you Fairy Road Zone to captivate, although Yi Mao doesn't want to fight with you, but this is what you ask for. With words, Yi Tian slowly raised his right hand and was about to fall.
Wait a minute. At this time, there was a shout in the sky, and then a figure flew from the island and landed in front of Sima Changkong. Lao Zu! Lao Zu!
Seeing this man, Sima Changkong, together with all the monks of Xiandazong, bowed himself to salute. Yi Tian raised his eyes to see that he was thin and dry, with deep wrinkles and 2 long eyebrows as white as snow. The palms that showed the sleeves of the robe were as thin as skin and bones. Their long nails seemed to have not been repaired for many years. From the breadth of his body, Yi Tian even feels that this person seems to have reached the level of half-step jade. But at the same time, Yi Tian also felt that the old man was entangled with a breath of death.
In this case, Yi Tian immediately understood what was going on. It seems that what Sima Changkong said is mostly true. Master Sima, the ancestor of Guizhong, has entered the realm of 5 failures of heaven and man. It's because you are so stubborn and willful that you startled him from the closed pass. Are you satisfied with this? Although the old ancestor has reached half a step of cultivation in Yupu, Yi Tian is not afraid at all. Instead, he mocks Sima Changkong. Although the realm of the old ancestor is there, his present situation is not as good as that of a monk at the top of the spiritual realm. His strength cannot be exerted at all. If he forces his hand to stimulate his potential, I'm afraid his death will be more intense and his longevity will be greatly shortened. Because, Yi Tian has already felt that this person's life is near. If he can't break through the realm of Huashan and enter the realm of Yupu within 20 or 30 years, he will definitely return to the dust, turn into nothingness, fall and disappear from the world. How do you know the 5 failures of heaven and man? Sima Changkong doesn't have the chance to speak again, but the old man stares at Yi Tian and asks.
Yi Tian said with a smile, the 5 failures of heaven and man are divided into big 5 failures and small 5 failures. If you can't make a breakthrough in Shouyuan, you will naturally show the appearance of the 5 failures of heaven and man. The so-called 5 failings are nothing but mental, physical, essence, blood and chi failings. Now Daoyu is so dead that his whole body looks like a little 5 loser.
How can ye not see it? This little friend is not from Lansong Lingyu?
The old man smelled speech and looked carefully.
Yi Tian asked. Obviously, the ancestor of Xiandazong is fully aware of the identity of these people in the Xuanjia family. He knows that these people are from the Lansong spiritual realm. But Yi Tian nodded slightly and said, yes, Yi is not a man from Lansong spirit realm. What do you want to say?
Since the old man appeared, Yi Tian didn't show how to respect him. Instead, he called his ancestors Taoist friends just like Longmen. There are several monks of Xiandazong who are already indignant behind the old ancestor.
But because of the old ancestor's presence here, they just put down their anger.
Since Xiaoyu knows the 5 failures of heaven and man, as well as the big 5 failures and the small 5 failures, do you know the way to solve them? That old man listens to Yi Tian to admit frankly, have no what unexpected facial expression, on the contrary, he is like ask for advice general ground to ask.
Laozu, don't listen to his nonsense about the 5 failures of heaven and man.
It's just a bunch of nonsense. Sima Changkong saw that his ancestors looked like this. He immediately felt a big loss of face, and he couldn't bear it any longer.
He interjected.
As soon as Shouyuan was approaching, he tried to find countless ways to prolong his life, so that he could get enough time to break through the Jade Realm. Therefore, he attached great importance to any way to prolong his life. As a result, Wan Ji was in chaos and cheated several times.
Although those swindlers were dealt with by Sima Changkong later, the humiliation could not be washed away. Shut up, Lao Zu is talking here. Where can you interrupt?
Who knows, the old man's words were interrupted by Sima Changkong, and the old man suddenly burst into a rage.
Sima Changkong had to give the old man a hug and turned his face to one side.
But the old ancestor gave a cold glance at Sima Changkong and said, I'm afraid no one in the spirit realm of Luo Tian knows the theory of 5 failures of heaven and man except me. What this little friend said is true.
I just entered into the realm of 5 failures of heaven and man. Now that you know this, have you ever heard people talk about how to crack the 5 failures of heaven and man?
The old man seems to have forgotten that he has just asked a question, and now he has asked it again. Tian said with a smile, naturally, to solve the 5 failings of heaven and man, we need to change from the small 5 failings to the big 5 failings. If you don't have enough money, you can think of ways to prolong your life. Otherwise, once you enter the big 5, it will be very difficult to crack it.
Do you know how to prolong your life?
There was no change in the old man's face, and he continued. Tian nodded, I know, and no less than 100, but I need some precious spiritual materials.
Listening to Tian's words, the old man's eyes brightened and continued to ask, can you tell me more about it, little friend?
Tian Dao said, it's okay to talk about it in detail. However, at present, the members of the Xian family are being detained in your Xiandao sect.
The master Sima is blocking in every way. The war between the two sides is coming.
Why should Ji tell you?
Get out of the way and let them in.
The old man listened to Tian finish, turned to Sima Changkong and others, and yelled.
Sima Changkong's face showed a trace of pain, but he was angry with the old ancestor.
He took many monks of Xiandazong to retreat more than 30 feet.
Remove the field and let them in to look for it.
The old man was not satisfied, he continued. Laozu, since they know everything, the way to prolong life and the 5 failures of heaven and man, they can also know the way to break the field.
If they can't even enter the arena, do you still believe that they can provide a way to prolong their life? Sima Changkong glanced at Tian and said indignantly. Nonsense, these are 2 areas at all.
Whoever knows the way to prolong life will definitely be able to break the field.
There is an old ancestor here. The old ancestor decides to let them in.
If they can't find the person they are talking about, the old ancestor will naturally ask them to give an account to Xiandazong.
But if you find it, you can also give the Immortal sect a clear name. What dignity and face are bullshit? What is more important than life, and what is more important than the inheritance of Xiandazong? The ancestor of Xiandazong coughed with anger and pointed to Sima Changkong with trembling hands.
Laozu, that's what I said.
What if they can't find the person they are talking about and they have other purposes?
There are many humble disciples in Xiandao sect, as well as some gifted disciples. They are the future and the hope of Xiandao sect. If the Xians use a drastic strategy, take the opportunity to enter the sect, and then kill, how many younger brothers can we save? We have to guard against this.
Laozu, think twice.
In a hurry, Sima Changkong said indignantly that at this time, under the pressure of his ancestors, he even said all his worries without hiding.
If you want to kill you, does the Xian family still use this strategy? Do you think that only one defensive field can block Xuanjia's steps?
The reason why I treat you with courtesy before I fight is that I don't want to call Xuanmingzong's mind, so that you and I don't fight each other.
Since Master Sima said that, you will break your defense field and let you see the real strength of Xuanmingzong.
If the Xians really want to do something about you, it will not only be difficult for them to survive in this broken field, but it will be useless for them to spend Shouyuan.
Tian sneers and looks at Sima Changkong.
Then he turned to the ancestor of immortal Taoism. What do you say, Taoist friend?
You will break down the field of Xiandazong now.
However, if he does, and finds a member of the Xian family in your Xiandazong, I'm afraid your Xiandazong will give an account to the Xian family.
Can you break this defensive field?
Hearing Tian say so, even the ancestor of Xiandazong's face changed, and then asked Tian uncertainly.
It's just a defensive field. What's the difficulty? Yi will open it for you now. Master Sima, if he breaks this field, the field will be abandoned.
If he arranges it again, it will cost countless resources.
Are you sure you want to let Yi break it instead of shutting it down? Tian said to the ancestor of Xiandazong and looked at Sima Changkong. Well, since you can break it, break it.
With the inside information of Xiandazong, you will not care about the resources of the field.
Please do as you please. If you can't break the field, we can say that you can't do it. Don't ask us to enter the closed field to find someone in Xiandazong. Sima Changkong snorted coldly, with disdain in his tone.
But Yi Tian didn't care at all, and his lips tilted slightly, showing a kind of playful smile. So, you can. However, if he breaks the field and finds the Xians in Xianda zone, you must give them an explanation. If the people who find the Xian family die because you can obstruct them, the Xian family will destroy you at any cost. Do as you please. Sima Qiankong heard that the speech was stagnant, but his expression soon returned to nature. He stretched out his hand to indicate that Yi Tian could start. Yi Tian takes a look at the ancestor of Xiandazong. Seeing that the old man doesn't say anything more, he moves his finger and a thunderball quickly emerges from between his fingers. The next moment, Yi Tian takes a look at the mysterious crack and flicks his finger. The thunderball flies tens of feet away and falls on a tree with a diameter of several meters in the distance. Seeing the thunderball, Xuanxie suddenly remembers that Yi Tian used the thunderball to guide people to attack in the ghost area outside Xianning's sect. And Yi Tian suddenly looked at him, which made him understand Master's intention immediately. Attack to understand this, Xuanzhan didn't dare to neglect. He drank a lot. His flying sword was carrying violent mana. The light of the sword flashed to the thunderball that followed Yi Tian and cut it to the big tree. Yunzhong, Xianmeng, Xianjun, and the rest of the Xian family's children are the same. All the magic weapons work together to kill the tree. Boom! 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 For a moment, many roaring sounds overlapped and rang through the whole island. The tree with a diameter of several meters suddenly turned into countless debris, and even the roots of the underground trees were bombarded. Not to mention the soil around the tree. Under the joint bombardment of more than 50 monks, a deep pit with an area of more than 10 feet was formed around the tree. Nothing could be seen in the pit. All of it was rolled up wet soil. Under such circumstances, Sima Qiankong and other monks of Xiandazong suddenly turned pale. Even the ancestor of Xiandazong deeply wrinkled his eyebrows, and his two long and white eyebrows kept shaking. Do you want to continue? The ancestor of Xiandazong suddenly looked at Sima Qiankong with a flash in his eyes, and his voice was obviously angry. It's a coincidence that they must have chosen Wan Nian Jinghuai by mistake and wanted to make a contribution to Immortals only way. Sima Qiankong looks at Yi Tian and reconfirms his eyes on him. He finds that Yi Tian is indeed more than 20 years old, and his soul is the same. He is definitely not taken away by any old monster. So he said that he didn't believe that Yi Tian could really break the powerful field of the Immortal sect. Yi Tian is no longer nonsense. After the first shot, a big drink, come with me. Then, his body moved, and he was already in the pit that had just been blasted out. A thunderball appeared again on his finger, and he began to look around as if he was looking for a target. Xuanxie and others gestured and saw that the magic weapon that had just issued an attack turned into an electric light in the air and returned to the master's hands. Then his body flashed and followed Yi Tian. Xian Run, in particular, just hit him, and he did his best. This monk, who had reached the later stage of deification, also made a great effort. The big pit below also had his share of credit. Whoosh! Although Yi Tian's eyes looked away, the thunderball in his hand seemed to be flicked away and landed on a temple. As soon as the thunderball fell, the attack of Xuanxie and others followed. There was another roaring sound. The smoke and dust filled the air, and the gravel was flying. The momentum was very amazing. Where the smoke fell, the original towering height of the temple has disappeared, and even the location of the temple has undergone earth-shaking changes, just like the big tree, leaving only a very deep pit. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes just now, I'm afraid no one could believe it. Just before counting the interest, there was still a tall and towering palace standing here. Why did you destroy Xianluo Temple? At this time, Sima Qiankong came to Yi Tian and others and asked them in a loud voice. Yi Tian glanced askance at Sima Qiankong and showed a harmless smile. Master Sima, your array eyes are arranged under this hall. Do you want to break the field? Does Yi still care what hall is above you? Nonsense, how do you know that the array eye is under the hall? Sima Qiankong heard the speech, his expression stagnated, but he immediately asked in a cold voice. Yi Tian looked at the smoke in the distance, and a thunderball appeared on his finger again, I guess. Then, the thunderball came out of his hand, flew hundreds of feet away and hit a stone tower. Boom! Yi Tian's thunderball is a signal, where the thunderball goes is the target of attack.
The stone pagoda has 11 floors.
It is made of large white stone.
The white stone is crystal clear and looks like jade. The whole pagoda looks beautiful, like an exquisite work of art.
However, such a tower did not arouse people's love. The moment Yi Tian's thunderball fell on the white tower, more than 50 strong attacks came and bombarded the stone tower. In an instant, the exquisite white stone pagoda turned into a pile of vermicelli, and the white line was flying in the air, but there was no shadow of the white pagoda. Not only that, but also the stone base at the bottom of the white tower was blasted out by the powerful magic power. When it was flying in the air, it was cut to pieces by the flying sword. Taking the stone base as the center, a deep pit with a depth of several feet and a radius of tens of feet appeared out of thin air.
Yi Tian looked at the pit with satisfaction and looked at Sima Changkong not far away. Master Sima, do you want to ask Yi why he bombarded the White Tower?
In the field of Juxian array, none of the array eyes are innocent, so next, you will continue to break other array eyes.
Like that loft. With these words, Yi Tianxiao pointed to a beautiful attic in the distance.
You?
How do you know this is the field of Juxian array?
Listen to Yi Tian say so, and then looked at the attic he pointed to. Sima Changkong face color changed again, the voice with a bit of panic.
Yi Tian laughed and said, if you know it, you will know it. Is it necessary to tell Master Sima how to know it? However, there are only 108 eyes in your field of immortal killing array.
Although the power is okay, it is not a complete field of immortal killing array. The complete field of immortal killing array has 156 eyes, and each eye can communicate with each other.
It must not be so easy to break it. Close the field.
Sima Changkong heard that Yi Tian had broken the field of the immortal sect. At this time, he had no doubt that the young monk really saw through the field, rather than breaking the field by mistake. Even what he said about 108 array eyes is absolutely right. Although this immortal killing array field is far less unbearable than what Yi Tian said, the fact has already been put in front of us. People have found 3 array eyes in a moment, and they have all destroyed them. In this way, the power of immortal killing array field has been reduced by a few points. If the other side is allowed to move again, Sima Changkong can't guarantee whether the other side will break more eyes. Moreover, the field of the immortal killing array arranged by the other party's immortal sect is not a complete field, which also makes him like falling into the clouds. This field was laid out by a certain generation of the ancestors of Xiandazong. Xiandazong has always been proud of it. It will never be opened easily. It will only be started when facing the major crisis of Xiandazong. Just like this time, more than 50 monks suddenly came to the Xuanjia family and broke into the sea area where Xiandazong was located. They realized the danger and decided to use this field. The reason why Sima Changkong's words were tough before was that in addition to the strong strength of Xiandazong, another part of the reason was that he relied on the field of killing immortals. There is no trace on the surface of this array. However, once it is opened, it will kill Sifu. Even the monks of Washinjing enter it by mistake. Once this field is opened, it will never work. There are dead doors and killing doors everywhere. Only a few living doors can allow people to pass. In the Xiandao sect, apart from some high-level disciples, even ordinary disciples don't know the name of this array, let alone the position of the students. Therefore, the high level of Xiandazong is quite dependent on the great battle of protecting the sect. Now it has been revealed, and there is disdain between the words. Even Sima Changkong, who has always been quite arrogant, feels that this young monk is absolutely an expert in the field. There was no mistake in the previous damaged positions. All of them were the positions of the array eyes, and the position of the other side was the only position to get rid of the array eyes. If you change the position, even if there is a slight deviation, I'm afraid that their attacks will be intercepted by the Huzong array, and even those magic weapons such as flying swords will fall into the array. At this time, if we don't close the field of Huzong, I'm afraid that the field of Huzong, which has been handed down for countless years, will be destroyed in the hands of the other party. After hearing the command from Sima Changkong, Yi Tian didn't continue to send out thunderballs. Even if these 3 array eyes have caused huge losses to the opponent, it will cost a lot of resources if the capable have the ability to recover the field. On the surface, he destroyed these 3 eyes, but in many places where he can't see them, they have all kinds of connections with other eyes. However, with the appearance of the pit, all of these connections have been interrupted. It's not possible to recover them in a short time.
Yuan Tian's eyes spread out. A moment later, Yi Tian nodded and looked at Sima Changkong. If it was so early, why bother?
At this time, Yuan Tian's eyes were shining, and he saw that the field had indeed been closed.
Follow me, don't go wrong.
See, Sima Changkong's face is ugly, but he doesn't say a word there.
Yi Tian doesn't pay any attention to him.
But to the Shin crack and so on command A, take the lead to drift to the horizontal body and go. Then he turned to the left and changed his direction every few steps. The route was very strange. The children of Xian family and Yun family, such as Xuanxie, are really obedient and follow Yi Tian's route. Although they seem to be very troublesome, they move very fast, like a long dragon fighting against a snake, and they move quickly to the depth of the nameless island. At this time, Sima Changkong and many friars of Xiandazong looked at each other with shocked faces. Others may not know, but they all know very well in their hearts that although the field of immortal killing array has been closed, it can be opened at any time. When the field is opened, as long as you are in the field, people who kill or die will be attacked by the field for the first time.
However, the other side could take this into consideration and didn't rashly enter the dead gate and the killing gate area of the field.
Their route was all raw gate, and it was extremely accurate.
This is not the most surprising thing for them.
Everyone knows that when the field of Zhuxian array is opened, it's a completely different concept to look for the gate of life in the open field and after the field is closed. When they were familiar with the gate of life, none of them was able to get in and out skillfully after quite a long time. However, they were also careful at that time. They were afraid that they might accidentally enter the gate of killing and death. And how well did the young friar, surnamed Ji, know about the field of Zhuxian array to achieve this step? Did you study the field of Zhuxian formation and then come prepared? If so, I'm afraid their power will never be superficial, and maybe some hidden power has not been exposed.
But what is the purpose of the other party? Is it to deal with Xiandazong?
Thinking about Sima Changkong like this, he broke into a cold sweat. For the first time in many years, he felt the unprecedented crisis. Even the other monks of Xiandazong felt this way, and their expressions became more dignified.
And their ancestors had already followed Yi Tian when he went deep into Xiandazong.
Thinking of the possible unknown consequences, Sima Changkong took a look at many of his classmates and said in a low voice, "Go, follow me.
No one can be reckless.
I'll deal with it by myself." With that, Sima Changkong's figure rose out of thin air and turned into an electric light to fly to the position where Yi Tian was. After him, more than 30 electric lights followed one after another. Because the field of Zhuxian array has been closed, there is no so-called killing door and dead door after opening, and the opening and closing of the field is in the hands of Xiandazong himself, so they walk in a straight line and have no scruples about the field. Yi Tian saw that the people of Xiandazong had also entered the scope of the field. He was no longer in the path of Shangmen, but in the direction of the blood sensor disc. "No, Master Yi, the blood vessels are moving." Feituan, Xianrun speed suddenly, came to Yi Tian's side, anxiously said, "At this time, he has completely seen the situation, even don't look for Shin crack," directly found Yi Tian. Yi Tian glanced at the blood sensor disc, and found that the drop of blood essence really slowly changed its direction in the sensor disc, and continuously deflected an angle. At the same time, Yi Tian found a human figure within the scope of his mind, flying away from the far away in a certain direction, which was exactly the direction of the blood essence in the induction disc. At this time, how can Yi Tian not know what happened? He yelled at Xuanxie, "Full speed containment." As soon as the words came to an end, Blood Crack and 7 or 8 monks in the spirit realm were chasing the figure. Their speed had been exerted to the extreme. Almost the figure disappeared from the original place in a flash, and they had reached the horizon when they reappeared. Of the 7, Xianrun was one. Lin Feng? At the same time, Sima Changkong frowned. Obviously, he also saw the figure and recognized it as a disciple of Yuan Yingjing. As soon as his face changed, he also turned into a light of escape, and followed the mysterious Crack and others in a hurry. However, there were 5 monks of the Immortal sect following him.
But Yi Tian didn't follow Xuanxue and others to chase him. He was the slowest, even if he used Dantiansuo, he was the slowest. But he was not idle. Instead, his face sank and he waved and said, "Surrounded."
As soon as his voice fell, Yun Zhong and others showed their strong executive power. More than 40 monks who had changed the divine realm suddenly surrounded nearly 30 monks who had been left here by Xiandazong. The two sides are at war. Yi Tian took a look at both sides and said in a cold voice, "You Taoist friends of Xiandazong, it's better to understand each other. Before the truth is clear, the Xians don't want to do it. You'd better wait here. If you try to leave, the war will begin. Without the field of Zhuxian array, you should be able to think of the result. What we can see now is that your disciple named Lin Feng has something to do with plundering the children of the Xian family. But the truth and the appearance are often not the same thing. If it turns out that it has nothing to do with you, the Xian family will not embarrass you. You should consider the importance of this." When Yi Tian finished speaking, he no longer paid attention to the monks of the Immortal and Taoist sect, but looked at the ancestor of the Immortal and Taoist sect who was not far away. "This Taoist friend, in your situation, all fame and wealth should have nothing to do with you. What you care about is not the inheritance of the Immortal and Taoist sect, or your own Shaoyuan. If there is nothing to do with Xiandazong about what Xuanzhou's side branch did, please cooperate to investigate the truth. The Xians only respect the truth and will not be angry with the whole Xiandazong just because it has something to do with the disciples of Xiandazong. But there's one thing that Mr. Yi said before. No matter what the obstruction and delay before, the Xians will count this account. How to calculate this account depends on how the Taoists restrain their disciples. In front of an old monster who is half a step away from the Jade and Pu realm, a monk in Longmen realm is aggressive and sharp. The children of the Xian family and the Yun family don't think much about it, because Yi Tian is always like this, because he has the qualification and strength. After all, everyone knows that Yi Tian once killed two great friars of Yupu realm, Anjia and Jingjia, hand in hand. Compared with the great friars of Yupujing, Xiandazong, the ancestor of Xiandazong, who is full of dead spirit and has little longevity, is nothing. But Yi Tian's attitude made many monks of Xiandazong feel very uncomfortable. In front of their own house, they were threatened by a little monk who had only the accomplishments of Longmen realm. It was absolutely hard for them to accept. You know, in Xiandazong, when disciples like Yi Tian saw them, they didn't even dare to kick them. They had to respectfully call their grandmaster and kneel down to kowtow. Just when they thought that their ancestors would be angry, no one thought that the skinny ancestor nodded slightly and looked at the people of Xiandazong who were surrounded by the children of the Xian family. In a hoarse voice, they said, all the disciples of Xiandazong should not do it without permission. They should wait for the result. If there is any violation, they should be treated as traitors. After hearing this, everyone was stunned. Lao Tzu had not asked about the affairs of the sect for a long time. He had always lived in seclusion. It had not happened for 100 years to give orders to his disciples like this. Moreover, all the disciples deeply felt the seriousness of the situation. Treason? Once the disciples of Xiandazong are accused of betraying the sect, the best result is to abandon their cultivation and imprisonment for life. No disciple can be confident that he can escape from Xiandazong without being hunted back after being convicted. No one dares to touch this mold. A word from the ancestor of Xiandazong made everyone's momentum wither. They all stood in the same place and took precautions. They were afraid of a sudden attack from the Xian family. But apart from that, they didn't dare to stand out and do anything extraordinary. The two sides were deadlocked in this way. Time passed bit by bit. In the tense and oppressive atmosphere, more than 2 hours passed quietly. With the passage of time, the monks of Xiandazong who were trapped in the encirclement began to get restless. Not only did the mysterious Crack and others who pursued the past not come back, but also Sima Changkong and others disappeared. It is reasonable to say that a group of monks in the realm of God chasing a monk in the realm of Yuanying should be captured by hand. There is no reason to delay such a long time. Those disciples of Xiandazong even began to suspect that Sima Changkong and others had been intrigued by the mysterious Crack group. Maybe the next step is to fight against them. However, when they just showed restlessness, the ancestor of Xiandazong suddenly looked up and looked into the distance, and then the monks of Xuanjia began to notice the situation in the distance.
Yi Tian knew that they must have found something. At this time, he released his mind and observed it.
However, they feel that the hands of Xuanxie and Sima Qiankong are coming here, while Xuanxie is carrying another person in his hand. Looking at his appearance and clothes, he was the monk named Lin Feng who had fled before. In order to guard against the children of the Xian family, the surrounded monks of Xiandazong did not dare to be distracted. Therefore, no one dared to release their thoughts at will, for fear that they would be attacked by the people of the Xian family as an excuse. At this time, they dared to use the idea of induction for some time, found the situation over there. Soon, two groups of people appeared in the field of vision, and more close, a moment later came near. Master, this man has been captured and searched. I found it in him. Xuanxie comes to Yi Tian's side, gives the middle-aged monk who has closed his accomplishments to Xianjun, and takes out a magic weapon cave from Xumi ring.
It's inside. My son Xuanpu was inside the magic cave. Xianran came to the front of Yi Tian's body in a flash from the back of Xuanxie, and said excitedly, "Let the people out." Yi Tian glanced at the magic cave and said casually. Xuanzhan turned red, pointed to the magic treasure cave and said, "I've tried it just now."
The forbidden system of this magic treasure cave is very special. It's totally different from other magic treasure caves. The disciples are incompetent. They can't break the forbidden system and release the people inside. Yi Tian accidentally took a close look at the magic weapon cave, which is only the size of his fist. He nodded slightly and asked, "What's the result of soul searching?" He frowned slightly and said, "This man is a disciple of Yuanyingjing of Xiandazong.
His name is Lin Feng.
According to soul searching, he was invaded into his soul and controlled his behavior. When he left Xiandazong and went out to do business, he came back with this magic weapon cave. Taopo's previous behavior was influenced by another soul. It's a pity that in the process of chasing, that soul was extremely strange and he ran away." At this point, Xuanxia's face was a little ugly, and it was obvious that he had messed up.
Yi Tian's expression didn't change much.
He pondered and said, "You're not to blame for this.
Xianming sect's means are too hard to prevent. It's a great achievement to save people back."
"But, how did you spend so much time? Even soul searching can't take so long." Xuanxia said, "Although this Lin Feng has only the cultivation of Yuanying realm, the soul realm he is attached to is very deep. Moreover, the secret method stimulates Lin Feng's potential and overdrafts his mana, so his speed is not slower than ours. At last, Lin Feng's mana is exhausted, and the soul finally escapes. If this is not the case, it's going to take a long time to catch this person."
Yi Tian nodded and looked at Sima Qiankong, who was standing not far away. His face was a little ugly. "Master Sima, what do you say about this?" Sima Qiankong took a look at Lin Feng and said angrily, "Yi Daoyu, you also heard that Lin Feng was used by others.
It was not his original intention that this happened.
Xiandazong was also a victim. However, if it wasn't for Lord Sima's repeated obstruction, I'm afraid we'd have caught the culprit. Do you want to expose this matter lightly because you are also the victim?" Yi Tian's face sank and said, "What do you mean by Yi Daoyu?" Sima Qiankong looked at the expressionless ancestor beside him and asked. Yi Tian's eyes twinkled. He looked directly at Sima Qiankong and said, "What Yi means is that this matter should be related to Xianming sect. Since Xiandao sect is also at fault, you Xiandao sect should show your sincerity of repentance and send disciples to investigate the whereabouts of the remaining evils of Xianming sect. Yi doesn't need your help. He just needs to provide information. The Xian family will deal with it." Sima Qiankong said in embarrassment, "Yi Daoyu is not a bad condition, but you can see that all the Yuanyingjing disciples of our sect can be controlled by the villains of Xianming sect. If this happens again, we will suffer more losses. Since Yi Daoyu wants to find the people of Xianming sect and open the magic weapon cave, I still have some research on the field. Let me have a look. Maybe I can open the above prohibition and let people out." When Yi Tian heard the words, he made a wink, "Then let Master Sima have a look." Xuanxia nodded slightly, and a magic power hit the magic cave. The magic cave quickly enlarged and fell to the ground. "Master Sima, please."
Sima Changkong came to the cave door, looked at the gray shield that closed the cave door, studied it carefully, and his face was slightly ugly. Then, he pressed dozens of times in different areas of the shield with his hand, and then slowly turned around the whole cave. After returning to Yi Tian's side, he said, "Yi Daoyu, I have understood the prohibition. The other party is really vicious. If you want to break the ban, you have to use the method of compulsory breaking. In this way, when the ban is broken, there will be a strong impact, and I'm afraid the people in the cave will be affected. The monks who have reached the realm of transforming God say that if the realm is not enough to transform God, I'm afraid they will die or be disabled. I don't dare to make my own decision on whether it is necessary or not. I'll ask Yi Daoyu to decide." Yi Tian listened to him finish, and a strange expression appeared on his face. He pointed to the magic cave. "After watching for a long time, have you come up with this method?" "Exactly, this prohibition is a death prohibition, and there is no other way to break it. So we can see that Xianming sect is really vicious." Being despised by Yi Tian, Sima Changkong is a little angry. He points to the field shield of the magic weapon cave gate and explains. "Master Yi, don't force it to be broken. People in it will die or hurt. If it can't be broken for a while, it doesn't matter. We can crack it after we find someone who can crack it. Shenrun doesn't want to find the dog, but he can only see a corpse. He only has the cultivation of Longmen realm, which is nothing." At this time, Shenrun came to plead. When he said this, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. His son was the cultivation of Longmen realm, and he was nothing. There was no problem. But he remembered that Yi Tian was also a Dragon's Gate cultivation. I'm afraid that Yi Tian would infuriate each other. Thinking about this, he quickly explained, "Mr. Yi, I only evaluate the dog, not the other monks and longmen. Please forgive me if I offend you." Naturally, Yi Tian doesn't care about this man. He goes to the gate of the magic weapon cave, touches the exquisitely made doorpost, looks at Sima Changkong, and says, "Master Sima, Yi asked you to send someone to investigate the whereabouts of Xianming sect. You can't stop him. You volunteered to break the magic weapon cave field, but also forced to break 2 things you have not completed. Originally, Yi Mao wanted to give you a step of the Immortal sect, but you can't get down by yourself. Do you think he can't break this field? In fact, the simple thing is that you are ignorant, know little about the field, and are arrogant. How powerful do you think you are?" In this way, the people of the side branch of the Xian family have been saved, and he doesn't care about the Xianming sect. Anyway, in the future, Xuanmingzong will probably attack your Immortal sect, and then you will eat the bad consequences yourself. With these words, Yi Tian doesn't care about Sima Changkong, and his palm begins to slide slowly on the gray shield. At a certain moment, Yi Tian's hand shakes slightly, only to hear a click. The gray shield flickers a few times, and then disappears out of thin air, and the door of the magic weapon cave is completely opened. Seeing this, Shenrun's figure flashed. When he got to the front door, he pushed open the exquisite door leaf with his palm and flashed into it. Inside is the person of Xian family side branch, Yi Tian and Xian Crack all ignore. On the contrary, Sima Changkong looked at the scene in front of him. His mouth opened slightly and he couldn't close it for a long time. For a moment, he seemed to be stunned. Xuanjia and Yunjia all cast disdainful eyes at Sima Changkong and the people of Xiandazong. Slap in the face. Just now, he vowed that the forbidden system in the cave could not be opened unless it was broken by force. However, Yi Tian opened the forbidden system between raising his head and throwing his feet, which was much easier than knocking on the widow's door. This is a feeling of elation. Unconsciously, these people will consciously higher than the people of Xiandazong. Yi Daoyu, how did you open the ban? After a long time, Sima Changkong asked. That's how it was opened. Didn't Master Sima see it? The field of Zhuxian array is nothing to say, not to mention a mere gate ban. Yi Tian naturally does not want to say more, eyebrows slightly apic to say. Sima Changkong asked for a boring question. He stood there and didn't know what to say for a moment. Yi Tian waved to Yunzhong and others. Those who besieged Xiandazong saw Yi Tian's action and immediately took the magic weapon back to Yi Tian.
Since it's confirmed that this matter has nothing to do with Cyandazon, Tian doesn't want to make trouble anymore. After all, even if it's a fight with Cyandazon, it's meaningless. No one can guarantee how many casualties there will be on his side. After all, there are only about 40 people in the realm of God, and there is also a half-step monk in the realm of Jade. If people really don't hesitate to spend Shouyuan, the result will be even more unpredictable.
Not long after Yunzhong and others came, Xianrun came out of the magic cave with nearly 200 men and women.
These people look tired and listless, but their faces are obviously happy to escape from death. Come and pay homage to Mr. Yi. This is the head of the family.
Xianrun stretched out his hand to Yetian and then pointed to Xuanxia. The 200 men and women immediately knelt down to Yi Tianying. They had different names, but they all expressed their thanks to Yi Tianying. Later, he knelt down to Xuanxia and saluted him. When Yi Tian and Xuanxia let everyone get up, Xianrun took out a piece of gold paper from Xumi Ring and handed it to Yi Tian.
Instead of taking the paper, Yi Tian frowned and said, "Put it down, the paper is poisonous." Toxic?
Xianrun heard these two words, quickly let go and threw the paper out. The paper fluttered to the ground, and the 3 big characters written in black pen on it were very conspicuous.
No return to the sea. No return to the sea?
Yi Tian see these 3 words, frowned slightly. It is obvious that this is a place name.
Xianrun, where did this paper come from? Yi Tian looked for a moment and looked up at Xianrun.
It was put into the magic weapon cave after the Xuanjia people were put into it. Xianrun thinks there's something strange inside, so he shows it to Master Yi.
I really don't know that it's poisonous. I don't want to plot against Master Yi. Please check it out.
And so far, I haven't noticed the poison on the paper. When such a thing happened, Xianrun's present identity and situation made him feel worse, so he quickly explained it. Of course you don't know that it's poisonous, and it's not an ordinary poison. It can make people immediately show signs of poisoning.
It's a very strange poison.
Yi Tian said, gesture move, a wisp of fire from the fingers, hit the golden paper, the paper instantly began to burn. But with ordinary paper burning is very different, gold paper into ashes is not silent, but issued a creaking sound, sounds creepy. Hearing this sound, Xianrun quickly stepped back, and even the other friars also changed their looks, a little farther away from the paper. The most frightening thing is often mysterious and incomprehensible. Yi Tian said that this paper is poisonous, and many people even shut their breath, for fear that the smoke generated by the burning of paper also contains toxins.
Master Yi, what kind of poison is this? Xianrun asked with an ugly face.
Yi Tian took a look at Xianrun and said, Xianrun, according to the meaning of the master of the Xian family, you are a dying man.
Why care about the poison? It's none of your business to know what kind of poison it is. Xianrun wanted to say something more, but he finally shut up and didn't say it. Survival is human instinct. If you cannot die, who is willing to die?
Originally, after a period of time together, he felt that he could avoid death if he asked for the mysterious crack again, but a word from Yi Tian reminded him. It's impossible for the Xian family to forgive themselves. If they betray the Xian family, they can still forgive themselves.
What's the binding force of the clan rules of the Xian family? After all, although they didn't harm the interests of the Xian family, they are actually betrayal.
If Xuanmingzong had the upper hand before, his wall grass would definitely fall to Xuanmingzong, even to Xuanxie and others. The premise is that Xuanmingzong can completely close the passage from Lansong to Luotian, otherwise, he will continue to hold a wait-and-see attitude. Master Yi, in fact, Xianrun knows that he has made a big mistake and has no desire to survive. However, many members of the Xian family have contacted this paper and are afraid that they have been poisoned. Please be merciful and save their lives. After calming down his gloomy mood, Xianrun looked at the trembling people, and then continued to say, who has ever touched this kind of paper, stand up.
I've been in contact with. I also took it to see.
At once, more than a dozen men and women of the Xian family came forward. They were not old, and their cultivation level was not high. They were all around Longmen and Jindan. Originally, the monks who came out of the magic cave didn't have people of high level. The highest one was around the peak of Jindan realm, but they were the main children of the Xian family. Their identity was much more valuable. Xianran glanced and saw his son Xuanpu was among them.
His heart sank again. He didn't ask his son anything.
Instead, he came to Yi Tian's side and knelt down slowly. He looked at Yi Tian and then at Xian Crack. Master Yi, the owner of the family, Xianran is responsible for the matter.
They are all innocent and didn't participate in it. The two elders can see their cultivation state. They don't even have the qualification to participate in this matter. I'd like to ask you and your family leader to save them for the sake of being the children of the Xian family. Xianran ran down to his knees and begged. The *** people were lowering their heads.
Obviously, they knew that the mysterious family members had betrayed the mysterious family and their situation.
Yi Tian waved his hand and motioned Xianran to get up.
Then he asked, who moved his hand, is it clear? Ask clear, from their description, it is the person of Xianming sect. While Xianran was talking, his fingers clenched, and then he looked at Yi Tian. Master Yi, Xianran asked to fight with the remaining evils of Xianming sect. Even if he died, he would die on the road of revenge.
Yi Tian nodded a little noncommittally and looked at Sima Changkong. Master Sima, where is this not going back to the sea, do you know? Sima Changkong didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at the ancestor of Xiandazong.
After the ancestor nodded to Sima Changkong said, it's a forbidden area of our sect, 10,000 miles to the west.
Can you tell me more about it? Look at the message on that piece of paper.
It's obvious that Xuanlingzong did something there to induce me to wait.
Yi Tian continues to ask.
Although it's called No Return Sea, it's not just a sea area, but because of the fog in the sea. A few people know that there is another name for not returning to the sea, called the Land of Immortal Meteorite.
Sima Changkong explained. The Land of Immortal Meteorite?
Yi Tian murmured the name again, forced to suppress the excitement in his heart, and continued to ask, then why is this place listed as a forbidden area by Xiandazong?
Is this your fairy family? What's the secret?
Yi Tian is not polite to ask, which is also some doubts in his heart. After all, he went to Luotian Spirit Realm to find the Immortal Meteorite place and the space channel to Timon Spirit Realm. Now, in addition to the people of Xianming sect, there are probably people of Xiandao sect who know the space passage. Sima Changkong heard the words and said with a bitter smile, Yi Dao, you may have misunderstood me.
It's not owned by our sect, but because it's too dangerous, it's listed as a dangerous place forbidden by our sect, so it's a forbidden place. As for the secret, I also want to know. Unfortunately, it's still a mystery. I can only say that there are many dangers in it. If you enter it, if you are not lucky, you may fall in it forever. Then, ask Master Sima another question. Do you know where to get the 7-star grass?
Yi Tian hears the speech to be silent for a moment, then changed the topic and asked.
7-star grass.
As far as I know, it should only exist in the non-returnable sea.
I haven't heard of it anywhere else. Sima Changkong pondered and said, is the poison on the paper solvable with 7-star grass? Yi Tian turns his head and looks to the west. That's the direction that Sima Changkong said he would not return to the sea. It's also the direction that the monk named Lin Feng fled before.
Now, only that direction can find 7-star grass.
It seems that the remaining evil of Xianming sect is determined to lead us to the sea. What Master Sima said is true.
There is a poisonous insect on that piece of paper, which is called Jujichan. There is no special reaction to this poison in junior high school. However, poisonous insects will develop in the human body. Every time they develop, they are swallowing the internal organs of the human body. Every development is a disaster for the poisoned, so it has the name of 9 pests. After the 9th development, this insect is an adult, which can break through the abdomen of the human body. Of course, the day of breaking the abdomen is the time when the poisoned person dies.
Turning around, Yi Tiankai answered the question raised by Sima Changkong just now.
Recalling the contents recorded in the strange insect spectrum, he continued, this insect is invincible to all kinds of poisons, and its mana can't be easily killed. Only the use of 7-star grass can control this poisonous insect.
Kixing KO. Master Yi, what does Kixing KO look like? Please tell Shenrun that I am willing to fight with my mortal body.
Shenrun comes over at this time and solemnly says to Yi Tian. Yi Tian looks at Shenrun unexpectedly, takes out a piece of jade slip, pastes it on his forehead, depicts it, and then gives it to Shenrun. The shapes of Kixing KO are all engraved in the jade slip.
I wish you good luck and find Kixing KO as you wish.
Shenrun carefully took it and met it. His mind swept the contents inside, and then solemnly threw a fist at Yi Tian. Thank you for your kindness. Then this person also toward Shen crack boxing salute, deeply bent down, but did not say a word. There was no expression on his face, and he didn't say anything. After the ceremony, Shenrun came to the magic cave again, patted a young monk on the shoulder and said, if you can come back alive, you will get rid of the poison of the 9 robbers. If you can't come back, you will have your own destiny. With these words, he walked slowly in front of the crowd, and looked at the clansmen of the Shen family. His face was very heavy. The same is true of the other members of the Shen family. Their faces are very sad. Not to mention the fact that the other members of the Shen family have been bloodwashed and many relatives have been killed. Even this scene is very touching.
Father. Home owner. Xuanpu knelt down with a salute, and the rest of the people knelt down.
For a moment, the cry began everywhere, just like parting.
Yi Tian looks on coldly and doesn't make a sound. The monks of Shen family and Yun family are also watching.
Shen crack eyes gloomy, looking at the situation in front of him, a thoughtful look. And many of the monks of the Immortal sect were silent, but each of them had his own look.
Well, I'm going. Shenrun didn't let the scene last too long. He waved his hand, turned into a light and flew west, and soon disappeared in the public's view. Go and have a look.
When Shenrun disappears from his sight, the motionless Yi Tian suddenly waves his hand and releases Dun Tiansuo to chase Shenrun. Yunzhong, his disciples of Yunjia and Xuanjia set up Duanguang one after another and followed Yi Tian.
Enter the cave.
Xuanjia takes a look at the members of Xuanjia's side branch and says that more than 200 people know that the situation is urgent and rush to the cave. Taking advantage of this time, Lin Feng, the monk of Yuanyingjing, pointed to Sima Changkong and said, this man has returned to Guizhong. You can deal with it by yourself. After that, without waiting for Sima Changkong to say something, he turned around and hit the magic weapon cave which had collected all the side branches of the Xian family. Then he moved, took Shenjun and Shenmeng, turned into several dodging lights, and chased Yi Tian away. Although Yi Tian played the limit speed of Dun Tiansuo, he was soon overtaken by others. Master, since Xuanmingzong tried every means to lead us to the land of Immortal Meteorite, there must be a big conspiracy. It's better to be careful. Let Shenrun go to the bottom first, and then it's more secure. Come to Yi Tian's side, Shen crack ponders to say. At this time, Yi Tian's eyes are shining from the sky.
He carefully observes the situation around him. This is a habit he has always cultivated. Some invisible dangers are the most dangerous.
Hearing what Xuanxie said, Yi Tian still looked ahead and said, the intention of Shenming sect can be seen.
They are linked by each other.
It's best if they can cause us to fight with Xiandao sect. If they can't succeed, their next plan is to transfer the people from the Xian family to the land of Immortal Meteorite. It's a pity that this plan has been broken by us.
On the one hand, they are ready to rescue all the other members of the Xianning family and spread the poison of the 9 robbers.
And then use 7-star grass as bait to lure the people of Xian family to the land of Immortal Meteorite. It's just that we don't know much about Xianshou now, so we need to be careful.
The master's analysis is very reasonable.
According to the disciples' conjecture, their main purpose is to understand the monks of Shenming sect who were poisoned by corpses and corpse demons. Maybe the 7-star grass there has been collected by Shenming sect.
Maybe they will make a deal with us.
Said here, Shen Crack looked back and said in a low voice, Master, the people of Xiandazong are coming too.
Yi Tian nodded slightly, don't worry about them. The so-called forbidden area of Xiandazong is definitely not so simple. According to my guess, Xiandazong established a sect on the nameless island, which is probably related to the land of Xianshou.
Maybe there is something that the Immortal sect needs, maybe it is guarding something inside. In a word, they can't be separated from each other.
It's reasonable for them to come and have a look. Xuanxie took a surprised look at Yi Tian and said, "What Master said is very reasonable, the land of immortal meteorite. But their sect is called Xiandazong, which probably has a lot to do with it. But why did Xuanmingzong choose the place there?" Yi Tian pondered. There is a space transmission array leading to Time and Spirit Realm. Maybe they are ready to escape from Luotian Spirit Realm at any time.
Many of the news of Xuanmingzong is not consistent with the information obtained by searching the soul of Xuanjia's collateral. It shows that Xuanmingzong has been guarding against Xuanjia's collateral for a long time, and some things can only be completely believed if they are confirmed with their own eyes. By the way, search the soul of Linfeng to see if there is any news about the place of immortal meteorite. Speaking of Linfeng, Yi Tian began to use the technique of transmission, so that he would not be eavesdropped.
Xuanxie understood and answered, "Without any valuable information, maybe it has something to do with his cultivation. Yuanyingjing monk can't learn too many core secrets in Xiandazong, unless he enters into the realm of God. But I got some other information.
This immortal sect often organizes its disciples to go to sea for training, and the number of times they go to the place of immortal meteorite is obviously more than that in other places."
Well, it's a clue. Many things don't happen at random. They usually happen for a reason. Since they are listed as forbidden areas by Xiandazong, they should be forbidden to go there.
But they often go there to experience, which is contrary to common sense.
However, it can be seen from this that it must be very dangerous there. Otherwise, for so many years, can't Xiandazong thoroughly explore it?
Tell the two families to be careful and follow my orders.
Yi Tian touched his chin and thought about it. The master said it very well. I'll inform you now.
Shin Crack agreed began to transmit sound to inform.
Yi Tian no longer pays attention to the mysterious crack. When he drives Dun Tiansua to fly, he unconsciously releases a heartworm every other distance.
Those are Liangxingkong who have reached the 4-star level.
The realm also has 4 levels. Liangxingkong was released by Yi Tian, flapping his wings and flying away from their route.
After releasing 4, Yi Tian then closed his hand. Although the more he released, the more his eyeliner would be, but sometimes he had to take some uncertain situations into account. If he could not recall in time because of time or what other circumstances, the more he would release, the more he would lose. Now Yi Tian has only 23 heartworms on his body, so he has to use them carefully. A group of more than 50 people were flying fast above the sea. The turbulent Luocha Sea suddenly flashed below, just like streamer. Although the speed was not obvious, the strong wind brought by it could already feel what the speed was.
Nothing to say all the way.
In about 2 hours, Yi Tian began to slow down. In the distant sight, it was no longer blue sky, white clouds, blue sea and clear waves, but a large gray shadow that stretched across the sea, connecting the sky above and the blue waves below.
At a glance, it looked boundless. Before the convenience is not returned to the sea.
Shen Crack pointed to the distant gray space, introduced.
Yi Tian's eyes fixed on the direction of the fog sea, said to the crack, "The people of Xiandazong are about 100 li away from us. It seems that they don't want to get too close.
They should guard against these people and take advantage of the fishermen."
"Master, don't worry, as long as the other party has any changes, they will use the 8-pole array field to trap the old ancestor, and the rest of them will be easy to handle." Xuanxie is not surprised that Yi Tian can sense each other's position. Although he knows that Yi Tian doesn't release his mind, he directly says his countermeasures.
Yi Tian shook his head when he heard the words, "It's safe to use this method in other places, but we don't know what's going on in the land of immortal meteorite.
So, we don't know what tactics Xuanmingzong prepared. The situation inside is complicated. We should be careful in everything.
From now on, no one can act without authorization."
"Yes, we all have this awareness. As long as Master doesn't speak, they won't act casually. What's more, the disciple has sensed Shenrun's position. He is at the edge of the fog sea, and he doesn't rashly go deep. It seems that the fog of the immortal meteorite can block the investigation of the divine thoughts, but the disciple's divine thoughts can't go deep. The Shen Crack low voice returns words, saying, "Can't help Light E. Ah!
Who knows, Yi Tian suddenly exclaimed at this time.
Master, what's the matter?
Xian Crack hears the voice of the leaf sky to have some abnormality, hurried out a voice to ask. Yi Tian suddenly exclaimed, but it was because the fierce sword in his Dantian field had a slight vibration. This situation has not appeared for a long time. Yi Tian temporarily suppresses the fierce soldier's flying sword and calms it down, but he says to the dark crack, I feel that the fog is familiar, just like the dark fog.
Dark fog?
Xuanxia had never seen the dark fog, and he was very strange to this word, and his eyes could not help showing a puzzled look. Yes, from the appearance, it's very similar. It's not ordinary fog, but a necessary resource for the cultivation of the underworld. Usually, only the place where the underworld cultivation appears will there be fog. This kind of fog exists in the realm of the wild spirit and the earth star. Moreover, I have killed many monks of the underworld, but they have a lot of blood on their hands, even though they have no blood. Master's experience is really rich and colorful, and he has such brilliant achievements. It's not like that his disciples were only in Xian's family from birth to now.
It's really poor to say. If according to the master, since there is dark fog, there should be dark cultivation. Is this kind of thing difficult to deal with?
Xian Crack listened to Yi Tian mention the past, some envy said.
Fortunately. Yi Tian nodded slightly, and did not elaborate.
Gain is communicating with the soul of Xian Longsword. Master, I feel my soul, just under the sea of fog ahead. After being suppressed by Yi Tian, the fierce soldier's flying sword sends out a slight vibration again, and then transmits a message to Yi Tian through the divine idea.
Are you sure? Yi Tian simply asked 3 words. Sure, my feelings will never be wrong.
The soul of Xian Longsword came back firmly.
You first feel carefully, what is the situation at any time to communicate, since found your ghost, we must take back. Yi Tian said quietly. Thank you, master.
After Xianlong made a beautiful female voice, he was silent.
Mingxiu is a soul body.
By the way, this situation is similar to that of Shueisha. But different from the ghost of blood evil, it can attack with magic power and kill with magic weapon, but the most effective way is the power of thunder.
In this way, I feel that there seems to be some connection between Xuanmingzong and the underworld. Xuanmingzong itself has a word Ming, and the elder himself is the soul of the blood evil king. I just don't know if there are any other elders.
If so, what are the other elders? Since it has something to do with the practice of the underworld, it's fair to say that Shen Mingzong can come to the spirit realm of Luotian from the spirit realm of Timon and leave the immortal meteorite place smoothly. Besides, I also think that there are a group of dark monks in Fengsuan spiritual realm, who are also practicing strange skills. Their headquarters are in the dark abyss, and they are also surrounded by fog all the year round. I think they should be similar to the monks of Xianming sect.
If you look at it like this, I'm afraid it's more complicated.
Yi Tianbian said that while quickly integrating some information, he felt that his guess should be correct. Besides the underworld, there are also some peripheral forces, which are not the same.
For example, Xianming sect and dark friars should belong to this type.
Maybe it's because the cultivation method is very special and needs to have some contact with the underworld. There is some interest exchange between them, or the monks need some resources of the underworld, so the two sides will collude.
Did the people of Xuanmingzong lead themselves here just to use the meditation here to deal with themselves? Yi Tian suddenly realized that this situation is absolutely possible. Go, send someone to call Xuanxia back. Don't rush into the land of immortal meteorite.
Yi Tian thinks of here, says to Xian Crack in a hurry.
I'll go.
Xianjun asked for help, and then turned into a light to fly to the immortal meteorite.
Xianmeng, go over and take care of it. Report any situation at any time. The Leaf Day Dynasty Xian fiercely ordered to nod, command away. Xianmeng naturally didn't have any opinions.
He also turned into a light to chase Xianjun. Since it is called the land of immortal meteorite, as the name suggests, it is the fall of Immortal.
If this is true, the meditation here is absolutely extraordinary.
Even if it is exaggerated, no one has been able to know what the truth is for countless years, which is enough to explain a certain problem. Otherwise, there would not be such a despairing title as No Return to the Sea. Yi Tian said to Xian Crack.
What Master said is right. It seems that we should be more careful.
The Xian Crack smell speech ordered to nod, on the face gradually appeared dignified color. As he spoke, the boundless sea of fog in front of him was getting closer and closer to them, and 3 distant lights came from the fog.
Is Xian Jun, Xian Meng, Xian Run?
Xian Crack Eyes a Sweep said.
Master Yi, the master of the family. It's true that there are great restrictions on the mind. It can be as deep as 300 or 500 feet, and then it can't be explored. The 3 men came to Yi Tian in the blink of an eye. Xian Meng first reported this information. And I found this in the sea of fog. It felt strange, so I brought it back.
This time, Xian Run was talking. As he spoke, his gesture moved. A piece of pure white bone appeared in his hand. Its appearance was crystal clear, like white jade. But at a glance, it could be seen that it was incomplete.
Yi Tian took it and looked at it.
Besides its smooth appearance, the shape of the bone was a gun shape. It broke off from the barrel, leaving only the head of the gun and a small part of the barrel.
It was 2 feet long. Yi Tian had a fight with Mingxiu more than once.
Naturally, he was very familiar with this kind of boneware.
Without looking at it carefully, he knew that there must be Mingxiu in the fog sea, and this kind of fog, you don't have to go to the front to identify it, you can be sure that it is Mingwu. He gave Xianrun the half-bone gun back.
Yi Tian said, Xianrun, you don't have to go to find Kixing KO alone.
The blame is due to the crime.
However, when it comes to the side branch of the Xuanjia family, the Xuanjia family won't sit back and ignore it.
Thank you, Master Yi.
Thank you, all of you. Xianrun was glad when he heard the words, but he still gave thanks to all the people in a very low-key way. After that, he stood aside and waited for the following. Yi Tian's eyes slowly swept over the crowd and said in a soft voice, although the people of Xiandazong didn't disclose half a point, according to the current clues, we can judge that the heavy fog in front of us is a kind of thing called dark fog.
The dark fog is used to support the dark cultivation.
Yi Tian said to others what he had introduced to Xuanxie before. Later, Yi Tian continued, although Mingxiu is a soul body, their way of fighting is not to rely on the soul body. And they also use magic weapon, just like the half-bone gun in Xianrun's hand, which is the magic weapon of Mingxiu. But it's not just limited to the shape of guns.
You take them as monks.
Their magic weapons are as rich as monks, but they are made of different materials. The soul body of Mingxiu can be attached to the skeleton. What they attach to is usually called tarsal bone, while the attached skeleton is attached to skeleton. They can also use the body of a monk as a bone attachment, and they can achieve the connection with the body through this kind of thing. With these words, Yi Tian tidies up and takes out a purple and gold rune pattern from Shumi commandment and gives it to everyone. In the fog sea, skeletons have a great advantage. Therefore, in the fog, the ghost cultivation uses skeletons. Of course, some of the poorer monks have no skeletons, so they can only use flesh bones. If you don't even have the body and bones, then this kind of meditation must be the lowest meditation, and its strength is not strong. In the end, the bottom one is called the evil spirit. Mingxiu is very afraid of the sun, the fire, and the thunder. Once the fog comes out, the skeleton can't protect them. In order to protect themselves and give full play to their strong fighting power, they usually use the flesh body to protect their bones.
Is it equivalent to a change of armor? Xian Meng asked. Yi Tian nodded his head and said, it's not bad to understand this, but don't underestimate the existence of Mingxiu. Some of them are also very powerful roles. The most powerful Mingxiu I've ever seen is equivalent to the great power of the human kingdom, which can kill the existence of the great monk in Yupu. According to the practice realm of the underworld, it is the emperor of the underworld, under which there are the emperor of the underworld and the king of the underworld. Later, Yi Tian popularized the knowledge about the cultivation level of the underworld to the public. Master Yi, how can I feel that you know everything? I don't think there's anything I didn't know.
Xian Meng said after hearing it. Yi Tian Wenyan looked up at the dark fog. Yu said, some things have experienced before, only came to know, see the dark fog, I think of the Earth Star,
I don't know. Now what is the situation of the Earth Star? Master Yi, don't worry. As long as you go back to the Earth Star, everything will be solved. There won't be any big problem. Ce Tian touched the scene. Shen Meng also too will comfort people, can only say so. Yi Tian restrained his emotion and said, the matter of meditation is only speculation, and there is no other hidden danger in the fog, so no one can be careless, everything is based on stability. Now let's go and have a look. With these words, Yi Tian's figure flashed out of Dun Tiansuo, put it away, took back the purple gold rune from the children of the Xian family, and then slowly flew to the Sea of Fog. A moment later, Yi Tian was already at the edge of the vast fog sea. If it wasn't for the vast sea at his feet, he would almost feel that he was in the wilderness of the great wilderness. Yes, after final confirmation, the gray fog here is the dark fog. No return to the sea. The land of immortal meteorite. No matter which name it is full of danger and murder. The dark fog here still has a strong suppressive effect on the mind. Yi Tian's mind can't go deep at all, so he can only look at it at the edge. But the vast sea area, covered with boundless fog, there is no valuable discovery. But where did the underworld come from? Is it from the sea? Xian Run. Yi Tian pondered for a moment and called. Master Yi.
Xian Run came immediately after hearing the call, and answered respectfully.
Where did you get that half-osteotomy gun? Yi Tian asked. From the bottom of the sea in the fog. Xian Run returned. Yi Tian nodded and continued to look into the Sea of Fog. Then he said to the dark crack, there must be islands in the Sea of Fog, but I don't know what the area is and where is it. Why did Master infer that? There are no islands within the scope of divine observation. Shen Crack doubts ground to ask away. Yi Tian Dao said, the 7-star grass is a kind of spiritual material from land. It can't survive in the sea. Since the people of Xianming sect and Xiandao sect know that there is 7-star grass in the land of immortal meteorite, it should not be wrong. Only when there are islands in the Sea of Fog can we explain the story of Aeschylus Master. Do you think it's possible that Xiandazong and Xuanmingzong are in the same group? They pretended to be suspicious and then set a trap for us. Although we searched the soul named Lin Feng, as long as he knew nothing about it, we would not get any valuable information. The Xian Crack spread sound to say, full face's dignified facial expression. Yi Tian shook his head, they can't be a group. If they are a group, they will certainly attack us by using the protection field of Xiandazong instead of the present result. What's more, it's safer for Xuanmingzong to take the people of Xuanjia branch to the place of Xianqiu, and then sneak attack with the people of Xiandazong? Why should we let them show up under such circumstances and come here to arouse our vigilance? What Master said is true. Xuanxia thinks about it and agrees with Yi Tian. Yi Tian continued, although the possibility of their complicity has been ruled out to a great extent, Xiandazong can't help but guard against it. As the situation changes, these people also can't rule out doing things that will bring down the well. In a word, it's no big mistake to be careful. Between the two people's thoughts, in the east, the people of Xiandazong flew closer and closer, and their bodies appeared in the sky. Yi Tian and others are standing on the edge of the fog sea, waiting quietly. When the ancestor of Xiandazong took Sima Changkong and others to several zhang away, Yi Tian looked back and continued to look into the fog sea without even calling. The mysterious crack is to that old ancestor a hug boxing way, the elder generation and the immortal road zones each road friend is to help to look for 7-star grass? Or to help deal with Xuanmingzong? Or are you just coming to have a party? The ancestor of Xiandazong said with a smile, if you come to help find kicks in KO, or help boxing, I think the friendship between our two families has not reached that level. I came here to make a deal. I wonder if Yi Dao Yu is interested. Yi Tian turned around and took a look at the skinny ancestor of Xiandazong, with an intriguing smile on his lips. I don't know what Tao Yu want to do. Let's talk about it. The withered ancestor said, if Dao Yu can provide an effective way to prolong Shuyuan, Xiandazong will guarantee that no one will hurt you if you don't return overseas. In other words, if you enter the fog sea and encounter danger, as long as you escape from it, Xiandazong will solve the rest for you. Well, you just provided a way, but Xiandazong wanted to fight in a down-to-earth way. Should it be very cost-effective?
Hearing this, Yi Tian laughed. On the surface, it should be very cost-effective, but Yi is not willing to.
Why? The old ancestor of Xiandazong asked with a frown. Yi Tian made an effort to brush the dust off his robe.
He took back his hand and said, Dao Yu has increased Shouyuan.
The price you pay is only a chance to do it or not. Do you think you have taken advantage of your stool?
But if we are outside, you will not face any more danger after you come out.
All the dangers will be carried by Xiandazong for you. How about that? The ancestor of Xiandazong refuted. Yi Tian pondered, well, let's not mention it. If we never return to the sea and need the help of Xiandazong at that time, shall we cooperate again?
In fact, it's not too bad for Yi Xiaoyu to say that.
However, if the contract is signed in advance, it's a gamble.
Maybe you don't need help, maybe the enemy you face is much stronger than you think.
Either way, Xiandazong will take over.
If we talk about it at that time, if the enemy is too strong, our Xiandazong may not take over. The thin ancestor said with a flash in his eyes.
According to Dao's idea, if there are many things to be done now, will you tell you the way to prolong Shouyuan first? Yi Tian asked with a smile.
Of course, it shows Xiaoyou's sincerity. The main reason is that if you have an accident in the sea of no return, your companion will come out and we will take care of you as well.
The thin old man nodded and admitted. Can we understand it this way?
Dao Yu thinks that if we don't go back to the sea, we will have more or less bad luck, and we may not be able to get back.
That's why you are so anxious to get the way to prolong longevity and solve the 5 failures of heaven and man? Yi Tian frowned and asked.
Haha, Yi Xiaoyu is so pleasant.
I really mean it.
Why not return to the sea is called not return to the sea because few people who go in can come back alive.
If you just save a few unimportant people, you can't go. What's more, with Xiaoyou's accomplishments in Longmen, you don't have to take risks personally.
The thin old ancestor said with a dry smile.
Yi Tian said with a smile, if they all go in, and Yi is outside, you people of Xiandazong want to deal with Yi, isn't it easy to catch them? Who will guarantee my safety? What do you say, Dao Yu He? Dao Yu are really joking. Xiandazong has always been well known.
How can he do such a thing? The thin old ancestor said with a heavy face.
Yi Tian thought for a while and then said, can we add another condition, Dao Yu, to tell us where the danger of not returning to the sea is? This is also a kind of protection for us, right?
Looking into the sea of fog, the withered ancestor said for a moment, this is all right.
However, there are many dangers in not returning to the sea, which is recognized by the whole spirit realm of Luo Tian.
I didn't enter into it personally, because I heard some rumors.
I don't care whether it's true or not. Let's talk about it first.
I'll tell you by myself.
Yi Tian nodded and said, but it's okay to say that. If the Taoist friends say everything, you will naturally conclude an alliance with you later. The skinny old man nodded and said, it's just right. It's said that there is an island in the Bugue Sea. It didn't have a name, but people call it Bugue Island. There is a very powerful monster on the island.
It is said that it has reached level 7 or level 8, because all the people who can see it have died, and there is no way to know what it is. In addition, it is said that there is a terrible whirlpool in the sea of no return.
The suction is very strong.
As long as you pass by, no matter how high you are, monks will be sucked into it.
No one can come out. Another is that there are some skeleton monsters in the fog sea.
It seems that they don't return to the sea.
These skeleton monsters don't like human beings to enter them. Once they encounter human beings, they will attack in groups.
At this time, they can't fight with those skeleton monsters, they can only kneel down and beg for mercy. The monster's intelligence is not high, and when their vanity is satisfied, they will let go of the monks who are not returning to the sea.
This is what I heard from a monk who came out alive.
As for the true and false, please tell them by yourself.
So it is. It's so dangerous inside.
It's so strange that the skeleton monster can't fight hard.
Only those who kneel down can spare you. Yi Tian looked at the withered ancestor and nodded. If it wasn't for Dao's warning, if we really met the skeleton monster, we would be desperate. Wouldn't we put ourselves in danger? Haha, there are many strange things in the world. If you don't go back to the sea, there are many crises. This kind of skeleton monster is hearsay, so you can listen to it. As for the truth, I can't confirm it. In a word, be careful. What do you say, Dao Yu? The withered ancestor touched his sparse beard and said, Dao Yu, how do you increase Shou Yuan? Oh, this is for Dao Yu. Yi Tian nodded and took out a jade slip from Suni Jia and stuck it on his forehead. After a while, he moved the jade slip away from his forehead. With a gesture, the jade slip slowly flew to the withered ancestor. The thin old ancestor excitedly took over the jade slips. He did not go directly into the jade slips to check the contents like other monks. Instead, like Yi Tian, he pasted the jade slips on his forehead to check them carefully. When he looked at the contents, his happy expression gradually disappeared, and then his brow slightly wrinkled, as if in meditation. Soon afterwards, he moved the jade slip away, looked up and pondered for a moment, and then pasted it on his forehead again. After repeated several times, his face was happy again. It was not until a long time later that he reluctantly moved the jade slip away, motioned and put it away. When the withered ancestor looked at the contents of the jade slips, Yi Tian was always clear and clear. Until the old man took the jade slips, he said, since you taught Dao Yu the way to increase Shou Yuan, does Dao Yu have to make a blood oath to fulfill your promise of cooperation? There's no need for blood oath. Naturally, the immortal sect stresses credibility, but there should be no problem with the Dan prescription given by Taoist friends. It's just that the other kind of hiding from heaven can really work? Yi Tian determined the location, nodded and said, if it's effective, you'll know when you try. The reason why Shou Yuan, the Taoist friend, disappeared quickly was that the 5 decline of heaven and man. Cultivation was originally a matter of practice against heaven. If you go against heaven, you will be punished by heaven, just as entering the palace of heaven will also lead to thunder robbery. Many of Dan Feng's spiritual materials are natural materials and local treasures. It's not easy to find them. In order to make sure that the Shou Yuan of Taoist friends doesn't easily pass too fast before they find the spirit material to refine the pill, they have to hide their own realm and suppress cultivation, so that they can have more time to refine the pill. Moreover, this repressive cultivation can't be restored. As long as you want, you can restore your previous cultivation at any time. Once the cultivation is suppressed, not only the same Tao can't see through it, but also heaven and earth can hide it. Taoist friends, think about it. Compared with the Shou Yuan consumed by Longmen realm and Jindan realm, which one is more and which one is less? Of course, he just provides a way for Taoists to use it or not, which means that it depends entirely on Taoists. Just like the information provided by Dao Yu, how to identify it is not Ye's problem. With that, Yi Tian turned his head and looked at the boundless fog, but he didn't pay attention to the withered ancestors. In fact, the so-called hiding from heaven is a name made up by Yi Tian. What he handed over to the ancestor of Xiandazan was not only a kind of Dan prescription that could be almost genuine, but also the secret method of spirit subduing. In the jade slips, some explanations about the spirit subduing skill have been removed, and the explanation that the spirit subduing skill can hide the truth from the world and prevent the rapid loss of Shou Yuan has been rewritten. The other secrets of the spirit subduing skill have been copied word for word. The principle of this kind of spirit subduing skill is to suppress one's own realm by wasting one's own life, so as to achieve the realm of confusing the real with the false, and even heaven and earth can hide it. The reason why Yi Tian goes against his way is that he returns his way with a tooth for a tooth. Don't you cheat me? Also said that meet the skeleton monster, kneel down to beg for mercy can escape a life? Believe you, big head? If that's the case, don't those thugs blow your head off? Yi Tian doesn't have nothing to do with Mingxiu. The old man is very bad. He also emphasizes that it's hearsay. He doesn't know whether it's true or not. Doesn't he want to get rid of his guilt once it's revealed? But this immortal Taoist ancestor heard Yi Tian say so, and saw Yi Tian's expression at this time. He pondered for a moment and asked, what's the matter with the Taoist friend saying that Yupu land enters the palace of heaven and needs to be robbed by thunder? Haha, I'm just hearsay. Yi is just a monk in Longmen realm. He doesn't even reach the golden elixir realm. How can he know about Yupu realm? Yi Tian says with a haha.
As Yi Daoyu said before, there should be 156 eyes in the complete field of Zhuxian array.
Can I have a copy of the complete field of Zhuxian array? Feeling that Yi Tian didn't want to say more, the ancestor of Xiandazong continued to ask. There is nothing wrong with this matter.
When he never comes out of the sea, we'll see if it's up to you according to your performance. Yi Tian said with a smile, but it showed that his attitude was firm. The ancestor of Xiandazong wanted to say something more, but after thinking about it, he didn't say it at last.
Finally, he just nodded his head slightly. Can Daoyu make a blood oath now?
On the contrary, Yi Tian stares at the ancestor of Xiandazong and asks.
It's natural. If you want me to make a blood oath, you should rest assured.
Then the ancestor of Xiandazong opened his mouth and spewed out a drop of blood essence.
Then a magic power hit the blood essence.
The blood essence suddenly burst out a red light and wrapped it in it. Then the ancestor of Xiandazong said, My lord Yunhong, I swear blood here. If all the Taoists of the Xian family are in danger after coming out of the sea, they will give their full help. If they have to back their vows, heaven will destroy the earth. After that, the red light on the blood essence converged, and the drop of blood liquefied into a red shadow, which disappeared into the body of the thin old man.
So good. Yi Tian nodded, waved to Xian Crack and others, and then took them to fly into the dark fog. The blood oath made by the ancestor of Xiandazong seems to be in order. There is nothing wrong with it. But how can Yi Tian not see it? It's just a word game.
First of all, he is talking about the Taoist friends of the Xian family, which means that all the people except those surnamed Xian are not within the scope of rescue. Even if Xiandazong took actions against people other than Xuanqing, it was not against the blood oath. What's more, the saying never come back to the sea has a lot to do. It's really in danger. As long as the people of Xiandazong stop their way and don't let them come out from the sea, it's not against the blood oath.
There are many mechanisms hidden in it.
Seeing Yi Tian and others disappear in the dark fog, the smile on the face of the ancestor of Xiandazong who originally watched with a smile gradually disappears. On the contrary, his eyes are shining and he stares at the direction of the fog sea. Only after Yi Tian and others disappear from the range of the divine sense, does he smile a few times. Then with a gesture, he takes out the jade slip that Yi Tian gave him and sticks it on his forehead again to check it. When the old man once again moved the jade slip away from his forehead, Sima Chankong, who was next to him, said, Laozu, be careful that there is a cheat in it. Don't let that boy cheat with a fake secret method.
The immortal ancestor's face sank. I don't even have this plan? I need your reminding.
The Danfang he left behind can really increase longevity Yuan. Some of the Tiankai Debo have the powerful effect of increasing the vitality of the human body, and the collocation of various auxiliary materials is reasonable. Since this Dan prescription is true, although I have never heard of the secret method of concealing heaven, the principle is not bad. I can completely hide my accomplishments with this secret method, and no one can see through it.
Yi Tian was only in his 20s. How much experience did he have when he was so young? How can such a rigorous secret be made up in a short time?
Therefore, I confirm that this secret is true. Even if there is something wrong inside, I will find out in time when I practice.
You can rest assured.
Pay close attention to the movement in the non-return sea, act according to circumstances, and strive to kill them all in the non-return sea this time.
The man's surname Ji will stay alive.
I want to search for his soul.
Yes, Laozu, they are ready. This time they are doomed. Sima Changkong said with a bow.
Well, I'll leave it to you. The immortal ancestor ignored him, took out a futon, sat on his knees in the air, and began to operate according to Yi Tian's miraculous method. Do not return to the sea, somewhere in the thick fog. Yi Tian and Xian Crack and others stay here, did not continue to go deep. At this distance, the dark crack can no longer cover the sea of fog through the suppression of the divine thoughts by the dark fog, nor can it sense the situation of the people of the immortal sect outside the sea of fog.
But Yi Tian doesn't think so.
He is seriously looking at the picture in his mind, which is from the heartworm left outside. Although there is no sound in the picture, Yi Tian has already read out what they are talking about from the lips of the ancestors of Xiandazong and Sima Changkong, because the four heartworms return to the scene from different angles. Seeing the picture, the ancestor of Xiantazong really began to perform the spirit-subduing skill. With a sneer on his lips, Tian once again released 6 4-star heartworms, flying to the depths of the fog sea, and then waved his hand and said softly, "Follow me." With that, his figure dropped suddenly, from the thick fog, into the vast sea. On the one hand, he observed the surrounding situation carefully, and on the other hand, he communicated with the soul of Ziyun's sword. "Master, continue westward, I feel my soul in the depths of the sea."
"Well, if you have any new discoveries, let me know at any time."
When Tian's thoughts passed on, he began to move westward.
Kixing KO has not been settled yet. Tian's first task is to collect the fragments of Ziyun's sword and find the ghost of Ziyun dragon.
Then it is to look for the 7-star grass, to find the space access to the spiritual realm of Timon. There is no difference between the seawater here and the seawater that doesn't go overseas.
It's as clear and rough as before. Of course, in the depths of the sea, not to mention the waves, even the undercurrent cannot be sensed, everything is so calm.
The more he moved forward, the more cautious Tian became. He always separated a wisp of ideas and observed the 10 pictures in his mind. 4 of them are naturally monitoring Xiantazong, and the other 6 are the 6 4-star Liangxingkong who are exploring the dark fog. All of a sudden, Tian's body is in a state of shock, and his face shows a look of surprise.
A heartworm who explores the dark fog comes back with a picture.
In the picture, a white skeleton with a height of 3 feet is sitting on its knees in the sea of fog, and 2 leaping red flames are burning in 2 dark eye sockets.
It's Mingzun.
From the 2 beating flames, Tian has judged the cultivation state of the white skeleton. In the spiritual realm of the great wilderness, he saw countless practices of the underworld, and countless of them were killed by him. Only when he reached the realm of the underworld, can he cultivate the fire of the soul, exert more magical powers, and keep the soul immortal for a long time. And the fire of the soul is the 2 leaping red flames in the eye socket. In the great wilderness spirit realm, the 9 Yuming Emperor also had the fire of soul, but he always appeared in the form of body with bones. According to Yin Lai, if you put on the skeleton with bones, the fire of soul in the eye socket is blue.
Red and blue are the essential differences between Mingzun and Mingdi.
Mingzun is equivalent to the Jade Pu realm of the human friars, and the cultivation of this realm is beyond the ability of the friars in the spirit realm. Moreover, Tian realized that in the picture, the skeleton sitting cross-legged is looking down in a certain direction, and the flame in the eye socket is shining and flickering, which is very invisible and terrible. If Tian's expectation is good, the direction he overlooks should be the bottom of the sea, where he is.
Tian's face is dignified.
While he ponders, the picture that another heartworm has sent back also appears. In the dark fog, there are many white shadows flashing, dense, see the number of at least hundreds. Moreover, from the height of those white shadows, Tian can judge that they are all the gods of the underworld, which is equivalent to the existence of monks in the realm of God.
No wonder it's called No Return to the Sea. There are so many powerful meditation practitioners. Once again, unless they are very powerful monks who transform the divine realm, they will never come back. It's no longer what these people can deal with. If the passage to Timon's spiritual realm is really in the sea, it's really a trouble.
Tianlu pondered, then moved, and fled to the bottom of the sea. It doesn't need him to say that Xuanxue and others naturally follow Tian. Now all the friars are looking forward to Tianma. After arriving at the bottom of the sea, Tian didn't stop at all. Instead, he changed water to earth and went deep into the bottom of the sea. He didn't stop until he dived thousands of meters. Dig out a space, and then take out the magic weapon cave, Tian with Xiancrack and others into it.
Old 14, Old 15, it's not easy to go back to the sea.
So far, we have found that there is only 1 monk in Yupu realm, and there are 200 or 300 monks in Huashan realm. What's more, this is only what has been found so far, and we don't know how many have not yet been found. Tian motioned everyone to sit down, and then said slowly.
Hearing what Tian said, all the people's faces were dignified.
Xuanxue and Yunzhong didn't speak yet, but Shenrun took the lead in saying, Master Yi, Master Jia and Master Yun, since the situation is so complicated and Mingxiu is so powerful, you don't have to take risks.
Shenrun is willing to look for Kixing KO by himself.
It depends on heavens will whether he lives or dies.
Shenrun doesn't want to take risks because of other things. Let the elders and many clansmen take risks.
How do you get there? In this case, if you are alone, you will surely die.
Leaf Day saw Shenrun one eye, coldly said.
Shenrun knows how to hide himself. He can go there stealthily.
Those meditation practitioners may not find me.
Even if they find me, they can escape by hiding.
Shenrun hesitates to say. But Yi Tian said with a smile, it's easy to say.
If it's good to say outside, with the magic of invisibility, you may be able to escape the pursuit.
But it's very difficult in this dark fog. If you encounter a low level of meditation, it's natural.
But although you can hide your body in the dark fog, as long as you move, it will cause fluctuations in the dark fog, especially in front of the dark Buddha. There is basically no escape.
According to the master?
Listen to Yi Tian say so. Shenrun began to hesitate. Yi Tian Dao, when the situation is not clear, don't do anything for the time being.
But we should make some preparations to prevent the possible danger. With these words, Yi Tian took out 2 spirit animal rings and gave them to Xuanxie and Yunzhong respectively. Old 14, Old 15, you'd better recognize the masters of these monsters. In case of danger, let them go up.
Yes, master. Xuanxie and Yunzhong agreed to go to the corner and start to mark the demons one by one, so as to complete the recognition of the Lord.
Although these are all 5-level monsters, they are still very useful because of their large number.
They once played an important role in the First World War of Mystery. In addition, the second point is that except for Yunzhong, the rest of the Cloud family do not know how to hide themselves. Because of the limitation of clan rules, the Xuanjia family passed on Ye's hermit skill to the children of the Yun family.
Thank you, Master Yi.
Smell speech, the person of Cloud family can't help body shape a shock, deeply bowed to Leaf Day go down. Although Yunzhong practiced the secret art, he would never pass on the secret art of the Xian family to the Yin family.
The function of this secret art is very clear to anyone.
Xuanjia even became the first force in the cultivation world in the Lansang spiritual realm by virtue of this secret skill, and its strong nature need not be repeated.
Don't thank you. After a period of observation, I think you are all very good. You can be regarded as your own people. Of course, the stronger your strength is, the better.
Yi Tian waved and said, then with a gesture, he took out one and gave it to a child of the Cloud family around him for them to pass on. After everyone looked at it and kept the secret of Yinsha in mind, Yi Tian continued, the third coping strategy is to use the field flag of Suotian array. This field is much more powerful than the field flag of 8-pole array, but it needs 36 people to arrange the field at the same time. Who else would like to join in the arrangement of the lock array field?
I'd like to.
All the monks present raised their hands except those who held the 8-pole array flag. Yi Tian takes a series of actions to pop up the Skylock array flag quickly. After the 36 array flag is sent out, the 36 array players have been selected. He mainly chose the children of the Xian family, because the children of the Xian family were already very familiar with the art of seclusion, which was more conducive to the formation in a complex environment. But the friars of the Cloud family have just come into contact with the art of invisibility, and Yi Tian also wants to leave them more time to master this magical power. Next, Yi Tian began to explain in detail the method of setting up the array to the monks who received the array flag. Each one who received different array flags should occupy 36 Tian gang positions. Not only those who were appointed to set up the array were listening carefully, but also the friars of the Cloud family who didn't get the array flag were listening carefully.
They didn't miss this precious learning opportunity. Yi Tian certainly won't stop him. There are more people who will arrange the field of the Skylock array. Once something happens to a certain array player, someone can make it up at any time.
Although it seems cumbersome to lock up the field of heaven array or to hide from others, these monks are intelligent people who have experienced a lot of ups and downs. Their low-browed state is just the performance in front of Yi Tian.
Anyone in Lansang or Luotian is the existence of the powerful side.
After all, although there were a large number of monks at this time, they were rare compared with the huge number of monks. As a result, they are very quick to master, and the rest is the skill process. It's mainly on the side of Xuanxie and Yunzhong that the process of imprinting the spirit on the monster is relatively slow, and it takes a certain amount of time.
Tian is not in a hurry.
After he has taught the layout method of the field of the lock array, he sends a pill into his mouth and observes the picture in his mind while refining the medicine. More than 2 hours later, Yi Tianxia sat up straight.
In the picture sent back by a heartworm, he saw a dark color. There is an island.
From a distance, it can be tens of miles around.
In this fog sea, an island of such scale is not small. Yi Tian manipulates Liang Xingkong to approach the island slowly.
As the vision becomes clear, Yi Tian actually sees some tall stone houses on the edge of the island. These stone houses are not so neat, and they are all made of rough raw stones, not even polished and cut. From the appearance, they are very ugly, but the space is very large, and they are very conspicuous in the thick fog. In front of the stone house, there are several white skeletons grinding bone vessels.
The arrival of the heartworm obviously attracted the attention of the other party.
A skeleton sitting on the ground stood up and looked in the direction of the heartworm.
In the picture in my mind,
this situation is just like looking at Yi Tian. Yi Tian sends an order in a hurry, and the heartworm flies to the distance.
Besides the stone house, there are no other buildings on the island. To Yi Tian's surprise, the plants growing in the dark fog are not much different from those outside.
They are just as lush and green. During the flight of the heartworm, occasionally you can see some white bones and skeletons flash away from the distance, and then there is no trace. The dark fog on the island looks more dense than other places in the fog sea, but it is not dark and nothing can be seen. As Liang Xingkong continues to explore the island, Yi Tian expands what he sees in his mind and restores some of the real situation on the island. When observing, Yi Tian's eyes suddenly coagulate, and a command is sent to Liang Xingkong, who is careful to get close in a certain direction. Behind a huge rock, Yi Tian accidentally finds several human friars. A total of 6 people are hidden behind the rock, cross-legged meditation. There is no conversation between each other.
Are these the people of Xianming sect? Yi Tian was puzzled.
He thought that only the people of Xianming sect could stay so blatantly on the site of Mingxiu. Under Yi Tian's control, Liang Xingkong quietly lowered its height and began to search the nearby ground carefully. Finally, more than 10 minutes later, Yi Tian found several clusters of 7-star grass in the crevice of a cliff. They are more than half a foot high, and they are very prosperous.
Real hammer.
At this time, Yi Tian has determined that these people are definitely the people of Xianming sect.
It is very likely that the elder is among them. They are really staying by the 7-star grass, waiting for the rabbit. Yi Tian didn't let Liang Xingkong disturb the monks, but let him continue to explore inside.
Along the way, he found some white bones and skeletons, some more than 10 feet high, some about 2 feet high, but he didn't see the lower level of Mingxiu. What the immortal ancestors said was a monster, but he didn't see a shadow. Nor did he find the huge whirlpool he said. Yi Tian is determined to observe the situation on the island, and continues to direct Liang Xingkong to explore inside. Finally, in front of a tall stone house on the island, Yi Tian finds the figure of a Terran monk again. There are a large number of these human friars, more than 300 of them, all sit cross-legged, as if they are practicing some kind of dharma. The mist around them does not hover around them, forming a whirlpool and connecting with each friar. Just relying on the picture, Yi Tian can't judge these people's realm cultivation.
Yi Tian looks at it for a moment, and let the heartworm leave quietly. Obviously, these must be the disciples of Xianming sect.
But there wasn't a monk of Xianming sect who was poisoned by corpse poison and corpse devil insect. I don't know if he was on this island or hiding in the stone house. Not long after moving on, Yi Tian has a strange expression on his face when he sees the picture in his mind. He saw the place where Liang Xingkong arrived, the dark fog began to thicken, and the color gradually turned black. Moreover, not far away, a column of air is rising, especially conspicuous. When Liang Xingkong approached, Yi Tian unexpectedly found that those black gas columns came from a bottomless cave. Don't look carefully, Yi Tian also knows that the black qi column is the Ming qi. This makes Yi Tian feel a little strange. The dark qi comes from the bottom of the earth, so where does the underground lead to? Is there a lot of dark stone below? Or, like the Earth star,
this is the entrance to the underworld, isn't it? This idea just flashed by. Yi Tian led Liang Xingkong around the dark cave. After no special discovery, he left here to explore other places. As time goes by, the 6 Liang Xingkong explored different areas and passed the pictures to Yi Tian. Gradually, the general situation of not returning to the sea is almost mastered by Yi Tian. At least, on the surface of the situation, Yi Tian has been informed of a large part. Half a day passed, Xuanxie and Yunzhong completed the identification of 1,200 monsters. In the battle with Xuanji, Yi Tian lost a little of his original 1,005th level monsters, but they were not equaled by Xuanxie and Yunzhong. Each of them filled Yi Tian with 105th level monsters, and the total number reached 1,200. Let Xuanxie and Yunzhong rest for several hours to recover their mind. Yi Tian also used this time to refine the power of the pill. At a certain moment, Yi Tian stood up and walked out of the cave. Xian Crack and Cloud Zhong etc. fish out, followed out. Yi Tian put away the cave, took the people to perform the art of Tuduan, and chose a direction to escape. After escaping 3 or 4 miles, Yi Tian stopped, pondered for a moment, and then went straight up. Until he got out of the ground and came to the bottom of the sea, he reconfirmed a direction and continued to escape. Master, this direction should not go deep into the non-return island? The Xian Crack idea opened to observe for a while and said. In the dark fog, the monk's mind was greatly suppressed, but not in the sea. Because the medium is sea water, the open mind is not as far away as the outside world, but with the strong mind of the monks, there are still hundreds of miles. Now Xuanxie has found this situation. Yi Tian nodded slightly and said, yes, we're going to the edge of the area where we don't return to the sea. In the dark fog, the Mingzun is always observing our actions, and he doesn't escape his reaction underground. The reason why he didn't do it, according to my guess, he didn't go deep into the dark fog. He was afraid that we might escape from the dark fog at any time. It seems that he wants to wait for us to go deep into a certain position before we start. After all, you monks are all good flesh and bones. The underworld need them very much. When it comes to physical body with bones, Xian Crack and other people's heart, the original idea of persuading Yi Tian not to be so cautious also changed, and began to follow Yi Tian honestly. How did Master find out that the Buddha was watching us all the time? After a long journey, Xuanxie finally asked. Yi Tian said with a smile, I installed a pair of eyes on Mingzuan. I know his every move very well. No matter where we go, he is always watching us, which should not be wrong. Moreover, there are still some dark corrections coming quietly towards our position. Let them move first. On the edge of not returning to the sea, we are free to advance and retreat, and we can go out at any time. They can't stay far away from the dark fog, and they can't stay in the outside world for too long. If they put on the skeleton, hum. Later, he didn't say that he had his own way to deal with flesh and bones. The group continued to move rapidly along the edge of the non-returnable sea, which was not only covered by the fog, but also not deep into the non-returnable sea. But under the cover of gods, Yi Tian discovered the difference of the bottom of the sea. The bottom of other sea areas is extremely flat, but there are many abysses under the sea. Although they are not so dense, they seem to be deep in ravines. In some places, it's not just like an abyss. It's like a deep pool on the bottom of the sea, expanding a large area. Nearly half an hour's journey, Yi Tian observed all the way, taking their route as the watershed. Basically, there is nothing like not returning to the sea, but the seabed topography is very complicated. This is true in all the areas observed by Yi Tian's mind. Old 14, I don't know how many years ago, there seemed to be an extremely fierce war in this sea area, so that the bottom of the sea was affected and the terrain changed. After pondering for a moment, Yi Tian said to Xuanxie. Zuanchake said, Master, my disciples have also found this situation. Judging from the damage to the bottom of the sea, the great friar of Yupujing can't do it. It should be a fight between the powers of a higher level, so that such a scene will appear. Yi Tian nodded faintly, this place is famous for immortal meteorite. Is it hard for Immortal to fall here? Master, I haven't even seen one of the great powers in the Heaven Palace. I'm not as knowledgeable as Master. At least Master has seen a real immortal. I have seen immortals,
but they are lying and standing, and I have never seen them. If these traces are really caused by fighting, I have seen them many times, and I really can't make them. Just like the trench thousands of feet long in front of us, if it is caused by a sword, the heavenly palace has no such power. Tian shook his head and said with a bitter smile. Suddenly, he thought of something and said, "Don't mention it. It's really possible. When Tu Dun went underground before, I saw some strange things in the soil. I didn't think much about it at that time. Now I think that it should be the trace left by the monk after he used his Tuduan. Although it's not very obvious, I'm not wrong. No, you'll be here first, and then you'll have a look." With words, Tian's figure flashed, and he had already gone underground. From then on, Tian leans down to the depths of the never-returning sea, and reaches thousands of feet. He can see the strange things along the way. It was the obvious loose trace of the soil after the monk Tuduan. Although the trace has been diluted to a certain extent after countless years of precipitation, the difference can still be found by the supernatural power of Yi Tianyuan's heavenly eye. Found this situation, Yi Tian still continued to expand a section of the area, continue to look, as to the depth of the non-returnable close, the more such traces. More than 10 minutes later, Yi Tian returned to the bottom of the sea. "What do you find?" See Yi Tian reappear, Xian Crack asks away. Yi Tian nodded slightly. "Before I became a teacher, I expected that there were traces of Tu Dun everywhere. This situation only shows that Tu Dun people are looking for something. Could it be done by the people of Xiandazong?" Xian Crack suddenly guesses away. Yi Tian shook his head slightly and said, "It's impossible to determine who it is just by the trace. But the people of Xiandazong must have gone underground, which is beyond doubt. Moreover, some of the traces of Tuduan are obvious, others are not obvious. It is obvious that the time of Tuduan is very different. It is not good to say how many years it is. It is certainly not done by one person, and the teacher has found the whole thing in the soil." With these words, Yi Tian loosened his palm and revealed a fine hair lying inside. This is hard evidence. There is no other possibility to find this in the place where there are traces of Tuduan. It seems that there was a great war here, and people knew about it, so we went deep underground to look for the treasures left by the war. He speculated. Yes, that should be it. You should continue to march along the edge of no return to the sea. Pay attention, don't change your route easily. I will leave for a while. If there is no accident, I should be back in 3 or 5 hours. Yi Tian said. Where is Master going? I'd better go with you. Here Yi Tian want to leave alone, Shin Crack says in a hurry. Yi Tian shook his head slightly and said, No, you're here with us. You must be sure to take those people from Xiandazong. They have evil intentions, and they have even laid their backhand. But before they start, they can't imagine what their backhand is. This time, we are marching along the edge of no return to the sea to mobilize them and see what bad thoughts they have. Be careful, Master. Shin Crack just told Leaf Day his body shape a flash to disappear from the original place, into the soil. Yi Tian is observing the picture in his mind as he uses Tu Dun. The Ming Zun is still sitting with his knees crossed, with no movement. However, those people of Xiandazong had a situation and began to move closer to the direction of the mysterious crack. At this time, Yi Tian doesn't worry about Xiandazong. The other party obviously wants to take advantage of the fire. They won't do it until there is no heavy loss on the side of Xuanxie. After all, the power of Xuanxie is much stronger than that of Xiandazong, and he also left behind 2 sets of array flags of powerful field. There must be no problem for the children of Xuanjia and Yunjia to protect themselves. Master, let me out. I'll lead the way. After more than half an hour, the fierce sword in Dantian vibrates again, and the voice of Xianlong's sword soul comes to Yi Tian's mind. You can't come out first. It will be exposed soon. You can feel the position of the ghost. It's better to be slow than urgent. It's mainly safe. Yi Tian rebuffed Ziyun Dragon Sword Spirit. Although he understood the spirit's mood, it was safe to hide it as he said. He went to hide himself, and it was estimated that the Ming Zun might not pay attention. Even if he knew it, he would not easily frighten the snake, because the other party must have a big plan, and he was in the mind of doing everything in one net. To pacify the soul of Xianlong's sword, Tian continues to escape in the underground soil, paying close attention to the picture of Liang Xingkong's return along the way. More than an hour later, the soft voice of Xianlong's sword soul became more and more excited.
Master, soon, soon, soon. Master, quick. 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 Tian frowned. Well, I know, it's not you who are running away. Don't be panting.
As he said this, his figure didn't slow down at all, and he could not help feeling a little excited. Every time he found the remnant sword and melted it into the fierce flying sword, the quality of the flying sword could be improved. With the continuous convergence of the soul of Xianlong's sword, the soul of Xianlong's sword is more and more powerful.
Tian's desire for power has reached the point of no more. Master, the ghost is nearby.
As soon as the soul of Xianlong's sword finished speaking, Tian was already diving down. After counting his breath, he made a gesture and fished in the soil in front of him. A 3-inch sword had already been pinched into his hand. This remnant sword is a part of Ziyun's sword, which is caused by the disconnection of the same sword with the remnant blade obtained before. Master, I'm going to merge the ghost now.
Tian Gang takes the remnant sword in his hand and looks at it.
The soul of Xianlong immediately yells.
Then merge now.
As soon as Tian Lu pondered, he agreed to the request of Ziyun's sword soul. At this time, the scene of Ziyun's sword soul fusing with the remnant soul in the great wilderness spiritual realm is still fresh in my mind. At that time, it only took more than an hour to complete the fusion of the sword soul. Moreover, the most important thing is that if you want to revive the ghost, you must swallow up the huge resentment, which can only be found in the dark fog. If you leave here, even if you integrate the ghost, if the ghost can't revive, the sword soul will not become strong.
Now that he has decided, Tian doesn't hesitate anymore.
He continues to dive. After going deep again, he takes out the seal magic weapon and creates a space. Then he takes out the space-time tower and enters it.
Tian.
Brother Yi. In the tower, Qin Luoshan and Ear heard the voice and stood up to greet each other. Qin Luo God is okay to say, but Ear's eyes are red, as if he had been wronged so much that he wants to shed tears.
I'm really sorry.
The situation is urgent recently.
I haven't come in to see you for a long time. Tian said apologetically.
Ear
whispered and asked, Brother Yi, what is the time velocity of this time-space tower? 3 times? Are you so bad at math? Forget so soon? Tian said with a smile. Tian Gang just finished. Ear's small powder fist immediately beat up. Do you know 3 times?
You don't think you've come to see us for a long time, so will it take us 3 times longer? Don't you know what a day is? Well, Ear, I don't see Tian holding something in his hand.
It should be something urgent to come in.
Right, Tian. Seeing Tian dodging to his hand, the fragments of the sword in his hand are carried behind him for fear of hurting Ear. Qin Luoshan quickly gets out of the siege.
Yes, it's the critical moment to leave Luotian's spirit realm and go to Timon's spirit realm. Tian explained quickly.
What, Luoshan Lingjiu?
When did we arrive at Luotian Lingyu? Remember the last time you came in, it was Lansan Lingyu? It's so easy to get to the spirit realm of Luotian. Why don't you let us go out and have a look?
It's a tour here.
Air screams and interrupts Tian's words.
Okay. I'll let you see the spirit realm of Luotian, but it's really urgent now, otherwise I won't get into the spacetime tower for fighting for some time.
Tian's words haven't finished. Air jumps up again. What? You didn't come in to see me and Sister Luoshan? Just for time?
He said, have you accepted female disciples again? Yes, I have 2 female disciples, but... Well, I've really accepted 2 female disciples at a time. Last time, Jinji and Yuye also accepted 2 at a time.
Isn't 1 enough?
Air said, tears really fell down. Psycho. Tian murmured in his heart, but he couldn't say it. He took a quick look at Qin Luoshan and explained, this time, it's really urgent.
Luoshan, please accompany Ear for a while.
Yi Tian has a big head for a while, then sits down with his knees crossed, calls out the original spirit fire, and begins to melt the fragments of the remnant sword he just got. Because there is the ghost of Xianlong in the remnant sword, Yi Tian's original spirit fire is a little milder. Whether it is Samadhi's true fire or Nirvana's fire, it is more violent.
I'm afraid it will damage the soul of Xianlong.
Yi Tian has smelted the fragments of flying sword once in the great wilderness, and this time he is familiar with it. When a wisp of black ghost flies out from the fragments of Ziyun's sword and merges into the fierce flying sword, Yi Tian begins to melt the fragments into the fierce flying sword. At the time of smelting, Yi Tian had an idea. He took out a piece of material from Shumi Ring, which is exactly the kind of material for refining Ziyun's sword that he got from the secret library of Daihuang's spiritual realm. When he was on the earth that year, because there was no more suitable material, Yi Tian fused the fragments of Ziyun's sword with other materials to refine the fierce flying sword. When he got the same material for refining Ziyun's sword, Yi Tian wanted to replace the original low-grade material, but there were too many things to put on the agenda for a while.
Since today we are going to merge the fragments of Ziyun's sword, Yi Tian gang takes this opportunity to do it.
It's not a simple matter to replace the original materials.
The procedure is very complicated.
We need to peel off the original materials, refine the materials we want to integrate into them, and even redepict the rune patterns on the fierce soldier's flying sword. At the time of refining the fierce flying sword, Yi Tian didn't get the ancient strange array book sent by on Yuan Mountain, and his mastery of rune pattern only stayed at the level of being a great monk in the Yupu realm.
At that time, what he was best at was Dan Dao, but his attainments of field rune were not as good as Dan Dao. But now it's different.
After a long time of field research, Yi Tian's mastery of rune patterns has reached a very high level. This time, he recasts the fierce soldier flying sword. Not to mention the materials, the rune patterns alone are much better than before. At a certain moment, Yi Tian suddenly makes a gesture, and the original spirit fire of burning fierce soldier's flying sword suddenly stops, and Yi Tian swallows it into the elixir field. Then, Yi Tian hit the sword with a magic power, and the rune pattern on the sword suddenly lit up, and the whole fierce flying sword lit up. The sword light is all around, and the black, red, and white light are mixed together to illuminate the whole space-time tower. While the light is shining, Yi Tian cleans up again and takes out the magic weapon of the small mirror. As soon as the magic power urges, it sends out a cold white light to cover the fierce soldier's flying sword. During the whole time, the temperature in the tower dropped suddenly, and a layer of white frost hung on the wall of the tower.
After more than 10 breaths, Yi Tian puts another magic power into the magic weapon of the little mirror.
The cold light suddenly converges, and the little mirror returns to its original state.
Yi Tian is included in the Shumi commandment. Look at the fierce flying sword again. It's also covered with frost. Its color is snow white, like the body of the sword carved with ice and snow. Yi Tian holds the hilt of the sword and loses a little mana. The black, red, and white light on the fierce flying sword flickers.
The frost on the sword body turns into wisps of mist and evaporates. In a moment, the original appearance of the sword body appears.
Master, I seem to see the real Ziyun sword.
At this time, the soul of Xianlong's sword suddenly made a sound.
Ziyun sword? Isn't it called Ziyun sword? Yi Tian asked in surprise.
Master, I have said before that my memory is missing. I have just merged this part of soul. I can find some of my memory, so I know that the original name of the sword is Ziyun Divine Sword, not Ziyun Sword. That is to say, there is a God word in my memory. Besides, the original broken sword is not worthy to be called a magic sword, so there is nothing wrong with calling it Ziyun Sword.
Xianlong's sword spirit recalled and explained. This sentence makes Yi Tian a little sad.
It turns out that his fierce flying sword is just a broken sword in the eyes of Xianlong's sword spirit. However, when he saw the sword in his eyes, even he himself agreed with the statement of Xianlong's sword spirit. Now the fierce flying sword doesn't input mana, and there are 3 colors of black, white and red on the sword body, and the 3 colors of light are not fixed in a certain position, but constantly flowing, as if there is life. The original red and purple on the fierce soldier's flying sword has turned into pure purple, without any impurities, and the purple is very clean. The black of the sword body used to be as black as ink, but now, like concentrated ink, it seems to have reached the level of blackness in the world. But the white light was not reflected in the body of the sword. The whole body of the sword was red and black, but the white light seemed to be emitted from the inside of the sword, which made the red and black more gorgeous. Tian flicks his fingers and bounces on the sword. Originally, he wanted to try the willfulness of the sword. But I didn't expect that under a shot. The sword body trembled slightly, and there was a sound of dragon chanting like gold and stone. This Tian is a lang, before fierce soldier fly sword absolutely have no this kind of voice. Master, it's more and more like Ziyun sword. Hearing the sound, the soul of Zion long sword exclaimed. What grade is the original Ziyun sword? Tian asked, listening to the sound of the dragons chanting. Jopin Immortal sword. It's the highest level of the immortal soldier's Zion long sword soul replied. If so? Tian had a little guess, but he was surprised to hear that the soul of Zion long sword told the grade of the sword. He thought that the sword was just an ordinary immortal soldier, but he didn't expect that it was the top immortal sword. No, Jianling, you said it was the highest level immortal sword, but why did you use the soul of the 8th level Xianlong as Jianling? Tian is playing with the fierce soldier's flying sword. Suddenly he thinks of this and asks. The master's understanding of the immortal sword is too limited. The original master refined my soul into the immortal sword, not by using the sword spirit to control the immortal sword, but by using the sword spirit to raise the sword. Because the Xianlong clan is good at flying, they use the speed of flying sword to increase their soul. Only the owner with a low level can rely on the sword spirit to drive the immortal sword to kill the enemy. Xianlong explained. Hearing this, Tian's face turns red. He is a monk in Longmen realm. He is despised by Jianling. It's a shame. But think carefully, what Xianlong's sword soul said is not wrong, or his realm is too low. Simply Tian no longer asked, he toward Qin Luo got an air apologetically smile. I'm really sorry, I have to go out now, stay here too long, there are many people waiting for me outside, may encounter life and death crisis at any time. Well, brother Tian, go ahead. I'm sorry just now. I'm too headstrong. Don't go to your promise. Before you leave Luo Tianlingyu, you must let us go out to see what Luo Tianlingyu looks like. Here Tian wanna go, Sun wants to cry ground to come over, pull Tian's sleeve to say. Since I said it, I will do it. With that, he touched Er's head, took a deep look at Qin Luo God, and walked out of the time and space tower quickly. After putting away the spacetime tower, Tian continued to use the earth to escape to the position where the dark crack was. Master, now I only get the memory of the ghost, but not the power of the ghost. I need to absorb the resentment in the dark fog to make that part of the ghost wake up completely. Feiduan, the voice of Ziyun Dragon Sword God comes from Tian's mind. It's not the right time, but this trip will be as you wish. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of trouble in absorbing Ming Qi and resentment. Tian pondered and said that because of the existence of Ming Zun in the dark fog, although Tian has a preliminary idea, there may be many variables to implement it, so he can only adapt to circumstances. Alright then. Xianlong Jinling agreed helplessly. Sword Soul, you said that you have recovered part of your memory. What do you know? You can tell me. Thinking of this, Yi Tianxuan asked. The soul of Xianlong's sword said slowly, now the memory is still very confused, but in addition to the memory of the immortal sword, I also remember a figure, that is, the original owner of Xian Shenjian. He is holding the Ziyun sword and taking his subordinates to fight against the underworld. Because of the curse of the underworld, the Ziyun sword is broken. I can't remember how the broken pieces of the sword went to different places. However, according to my inference, it must have something to do with the underworld. In the realm of the great wilderness spirit, the remnant blade was found in the underworld region. And this remnant blade was also found in the dark fog. The master's first remnant blade was found on the Earth Star. If the Earth Star also has the underworld, it confirms this even more. Tian's body was shocked when he heard what Xianlong's sword soul said. It's true what the sword soul said. All the fragments of the remnant sword were found in the underworld area, and there is indeed a underworld on the Earth Star. Although his first remnant blade was not found in the Fog Sea in northern Xinjiang, it is likely that someone else got it from the Fog Sea and spread it abroad. In this way, it is really related to the underworld. Do you remember who the original owner of this sword was? Tian repressed the shock in his heart and continued to ask.
Originally I don't remember, but from today on, I have already remembered. The original owner of this sword is no stranger.
His name is Sui Huang. Xianlong Sword Spirit said. What? Sui Huang?
Do you mean the original owner of this sword is Sui Huang? Tian almost exclaimed and asked urgently.
Yes, it's Sui Huang, the Sui Huang who passed on his master's idea of Sui Huang.
The soul of Xianlong sword returns to the way definitely.
Sui Huang. Tian in the fast earth done suddenly stops.
Suddenly, his heart is full of ups and downs, and many thoughts come.
So, isn't there too much intersection between myself and Sui Huang? Is what kind of power let oneself and Sui Huang produce so many intersection?
He cultivated the idea of Sui Huang's view, got the real fire of Sui Huang's samadhi, and got many spiritual materials from the Xingyi clan. Only now did I know that the fierce flying sword I had been using was also the thing of Sui Huang. What's more, I still have a message from the seal of Sui Huang in my mind.
Unfortunately, I can't open it now. Is it a coincidence? Or the overall situation of Sui Wanbu? Tian thought of these, can't help but some creepy. The underworld and Sui Huang? What kind of relationship is it? Also, is the expansion of the underworld on Earth also related to Sui Huang? After all, the body of Sui Huang is on the Earth, but what's the matter with Sui Huang and the demons?
These thoughts in Tian's mind turn over and over, can't understand, let him feel very headache.
Anyway, there will be the day to solve the mystery. Tian doesn't think about it anymore and continues to ask, Sword Soul, do you have any other memory?
Yes, and these memories should be very important to the host.
Xianlong came back immediately. Say.
Tian digested the news about Sui Huang and began to continue to escape.
Xian Dragon Sword Spirit said, after my soul fell into the sea, after many years, I finally lost consciousness because I couldn't resist the curse of the underworld. Before losing consciousness, there were Xianjianzong and Ningxiu.
The ghost sensed that during the war, several immortals fell, so that a treasure was left on the seafloor.
Most of them were taken away by the underworld.
Later, they found a new one named Luoshenwang. The people of Xiandazong also got something.
They got a bow of Hui. It's also an immortal weapon. Hui bow? Tian is stunned.
His gesture moves. A bow appears in his hand.
Is it similar to this bow? Yes, it looks similar, but the master's bow can't be compared with Hui's bow. At most, it's just an imitation.
Xian Dragon Sword Spirit said, it's a pity that Xiandazong only found a bow, but they didn't find the original arrow.
However, 3 arrows were found by Ningxiu, but they didn't have a bow.
Tian nodded his head after hearing the speech. As soon as you say that, I understand that the founding of Xiandazong school here is for the precious treasure left by the immortal, and what they are looking for now should be the original arrow of Hui Bao.
This is the master's own guess. The ghost didn't know this, because he lost consciousness later.
But there is another treasure. The ghost can be seen falling, but no one can get it before losing consciousness.
Xianlong's sword soul continued. What treasure? Remember Tian came down and asked immediately. It's an immortal instrument called 5-element pearl.
The soul of Xianlong's sword seems to be in memory and says slowly.
5-element beads? It sounds very powerful. Do you know the specific power? Forget it, you'd better talk about where it fell first.
Tian repeated the name of the immortal utensil, and then changed his tongue.
Xianlong Sword Soul said, it's a coincidence that those people went to the bottom of the sea to look for the 5-element pearl, but no one thought that the 5-element pearl was swallowed by a turtle in the sea, and the turtle was captured by the immortal sect. According to this calculation, the 5-element pearl should have fallen into the hands of the immortal sect. It seems that Xiandazong's chance is not small.
If he can get 2 kinds of treasures, he must be very strong.
Yi Tian pondered and said, since that 5-element pearl may fall into the hands of Xiandazong, we really need to have a good understanding of its specific magical function. At this time, the voice of Xianlong's sword soul came into Yi Tian's ear again. If you want to talk about the effectiveness of the 5-element beads, it will definitely make people salivate. Once the pearl is identified as the master, it can break through the 5 elements obstacles as long as it is urged by mana. In case of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. Take Tuduan as an example. If you use it here, it's like entering a land without soil. Even materials like gold and iron are free to pass. It's a decision-making magic weapon. How could it have such a magical function? When Yi Tian heard the words, he was surprised. If it is true as the soul of Xianlong's sword said, it is definitely a treasure against heaven. In case of fire, in case of water, you can pass anywhere, and the speed has no influence at all? It's a pity that this treasure was captured by the Immortal sect. Yi Tian murmured with regret that he overestimated the strength of Xiandazong. Although without the original Hou-Yi arrow, with the strength of Xiandazong, Hou-Yi arrow can be rebuilt, which may be inferior in power, but Hou-Yi Bao is an immortal weapon after all, and its power must be far more than that of half-immortal soldiers. Yi Tian rushes to the location of Xuanxue and others in a hurry. Master, what's the result of this trip? Seeing that the crack suddenly came out from the bottom of the sea, the moving crack asked with a long breath. He didn't know what Yi Tian was going to do, and he didn't ask much. Anyway, Yi Tian was always enigmatic in his heart. His insight and strategy were not comparable to his. There must be his reasons for what Master did. Since he didn't say it, he wouldn't ask. Yi Tian nodded slightly and said, things are going well, but there may be some troubles in the next thing. What's the trouble? Shen crack smell speech, facial expression dignified rise, even Leaf Day all feel is a trouble, affirmation matter already very serious. Yi Tian Dao, according to the observation of being a teacher, Xiandazong has been monitoring our actions all the time. They will definitely make some actions in the end, and the superficial contract will certainly be torn. It's just that the time they think is not ripe. As far as we know, there is a bow of Hou-Yi in Xiandazong's hand, which is far more than that of the half-immortal soldier. Although the arrow may not be the original immortal weapon, it is absolutely powerful. We have to guard against that. Immortal? How can there be immortal things in this world? The Shin crack hears this news as expected surprised, can't help exclaiming. Of course, since there are half-immortal soldiers, there must be immortal weapons. However, the spiritual realm of the monks of Xiandao sect may not be able to give full play to the real power of the immortal tools, otherwise they would not be so careful and play some tricks. Otherwise, you can kill your opponent with just one arrow. How can you hide these and make up the piece of the surface mountain? Yi Tian calmly said, moreover, this is only based on the current situation to speculate, the actual situation is how, still need to be further determined. Any other news? Xuanxue calmed down and continued to ask. Of course, there are. According to the judgment of the master, we should be the people of Xianming sect. 6 of them are suspected to be practicing in the divine realm, probably the elder is among them, and more than 300 of them should be disciples of Xianming sect, practicing some skills related to the underworld on Bugue Island. The island is tens of miles around, and there is a grotto on it. The dark fog comes out of the grotto. Yi Tian continued. Then he looked at Xianmeng and Xianjun. You too, you were captured when you entered the spirit realm of Luotian. I remember you said you were caught in a big net. Could you tell me more about the situation at that time? Hearing Yi Tian mention their original embarrassment, Xianjun and Xianmeng look like chatting. Although it's the most shameful thing in their lives, when they hear Yi Tian's inquiry, they naturally know that it happened for a reason, and Yi Tian will never mention it for no reason. They looked at each other for a moment, and Xianmeng turned his mouth toward Xianjun. Xianjun made a helpless expression and said, at that time, after passing through the space channel, he just came out of the cold pool and flew over the abyss. Suddenly, he saw a white light coming. Xianmeng and I subconsciously dodged, but unexpectedly, the white light turned into a rope and tied Xianmeng and me tightly inside. I can't move. Then he was captured and put in the basement. It's not that we are incompetent, nor that we have lost our due vigilance.
It's just that the white light is too fast for us to dodge, so. Sword Spirit, is Xuanjuan's description similar to Luo Tianwang in memory? Yi Tianbian nodded while listening.
When Xianjun finished the main content and began to explain himself, Yi Tianbian sent out a message and asked.
From their description, it should be Luo Tianwang. This kind of immortal weapon is very powerful.
But it has the same defect.
If you use it once and net the prey, you need to take out the prey and then cast it again.
It's much worse than the Ziyun sword.
Purple Cloud Dragon Sword Spirit returns away. Hearing what the Sword Spirit said, Yi Tian knew it. He waved his hand to Xianjun and said, "You don't have to blame yourself. You didn't mean to blame you for asking about it.
According to the latest information, the big net that captured you should be an immortal tool, named Tian Luo Net. Originally it was used by the Immortal, but later it was obtained by the secret cultivation. I don't know how it came to the hands of Xianming sect.
The power of Immortals is absolutely extraordinary, including you.
You must be careful when you see the white light that Xianjun said.
This net can't be used again before taking out the captured object. Once you find the person who casts this treasure, you can attack it in groups for the first time.
If you don't give the other person the chance to continue to use this treasure, you can save your companion."
"I understand."
They agreed that they were already on guard against that day's snare.
"Master, what should we do next?"
At this time Xian Crack asks away.
Yi Tian pondered, "Now we are in a very disadvantageous situation. In the past, there were the underworld cultivation and the Xianming sect, and then there was the Immortal sect. But I believe that Xiandazong will not rush to do it.
They will certainly wait for us to fight with Mingxiu. Otherwise, they should not take the risk of offending the Xians in Lanzonglingu. Therefore, there is no need to consider the threat of Xiandazong for the time being, just take precautions.
In the dark fog, it's not good for us to fight with him.
If we can lead the meditation out of the fog, we can attack when we enter and defend when we retreat.
It's a complete strategy to start outside.
Since Mingxiu knew that there was a dark fog, they lost their advantage. It must be very difficult to lead them out." Xian Crack quite some worry ground says.
At this time, Yi Tian said, "I have my own way.
You just need to be prepared and set up the field of Suatong array and Octopole array at any time. I'll give the rest to my teacher. Of course, unless it is necessary, it is not suitable to expose these two fields for the time being. Only when they are used at a critical moment can they have a surprising effect. It's not difficult to arrange these two kinds of fields. When to arrange them, just follow the master's instructions." Although Xuanxie said so, he was quite puzzled about the way Yi Tian was going to take.
He didn't know how Yi Tian would lead Mingxiu out.
After all, people just need to defend in the dark fog, so there's no need to take risks. Moreover, according to Yi Tian, there is another monk in the dark cultivation, who is equivalent to the great monk in the Jade Pu realm of the human race.
He should be invincible in the dark fog. How can he easily abandon the long and short?
Mingxiu wants to use Kixing KO as a threat to entice us to go deep.
Xiandazong wants to take advantage of fishermen and pick ready-made cheap ones.
Xuanmingzong and Mingxiu are in collusion and want to ambush us.
I don't want them to be happy. Now come with me." Yi Tian said no more.
After observing the pictures in his mind, he used the skill of water escape to escape up quickly. After a long time, the group finally came out of the sea and was in the dark fog, but it was still the edge of the dark fog.
As soon as Yi Tianlu identified the direction, he flew out of the dark fog.
After more than 10 breaths, they had passed through the dark fog and returned to the blue sea and sky, and their sight suddenly widened.
"Get ready!"
Yi Tian takes a look at the dark fog and blue sky, and whispers a word to the dark crack. Then he opens his mouth, and a red and black mini sword comes out of his mouth. It's the reduced fierce flying sword. Although it's very small, it grows against the wind as soon as it's out.
It turns into more than 3 feet long in an instant.
It's the size of a normal flying sword.
Go!
Yi Tian pointed to the fierce soldier's flying sword and spat out a word in his mouth. The fierce soldier's flying sword with red, black, and white color immediately sent out a clear sound of dragon chanting. The sword body trembled slightly, circled in the air, and then flew out of the fog. Tian didn't let the fierce swords into the deep fog, but just floated in the fog 4 or 5 feet away from the edge of the fog sea. Even so, as soon as the fierce soldier's flying sword entered the dark fog, the surrounding dark fog immediately began to be restless. In the fog, it seemed as if countless undercurrents were suddenly surging up and rolling. Undercurrents came one after another and gathered to the fierce soldier's flying sword. Originally, the fierce sword seemed to have a soul, jumping to the dark fog with joy, which surprised everyone greatly. However, compared with the situation in front of us, the surprise was a little worse. With the continuous surging of the dark fog, it seems that an invisible force is guiding the dark fog. The dark fog around the fierce soldier flying sword begins to rotate slowly, forming a dark gas vortex. The center of the vortex is the fierce soldier flying sword emitting black, red, and white light. With the passage of time, the dark gas whirlpool formed by the purple cloud dragon sword spirit in the fierce soldier's flying sword absorbing resentment is getting bigger and bigger, and the momentum becomes more and more amazing. At the beginning, it only affected the dark fog in a certain direction around, but later, the scope of the influence became larger and larger, and the vortex continued to expand, so that the dark fog within tens of miles or even hundreds of miles was flocking to the location where the fierce swords were. The scale of the dark gas whirlpool is more and more amazing, just like a high-speed rotating dark gas funnel, constantly rotating, connecting heaven and earth, and the bottom of the funnel is to cover the whole fierce sword. What are they doing? How did it make such a big noise? 100 miles away in the sea, the people of Xiandazong were suspended in the air. The patriarch Sima Changkon looked at the huge whirlpool on the edge of the fog sea and asked with a frown. From this distance, even if you don't need to explore the mind, you can see the huge dark gas whirlpool caused by the fierce soldier's flying sword. From this, we can see how big the movement caused by the purple cloud dragon's sword spirit swallowing the dark fog resentment is. Here, it's no one else who can make the suzerain master Sima Changkong ask. It's the ancestor of Xiandazong, Shangguan Yunhong, who is thin and full of death. At this time, Shangguan Yunhong was also looking at the terrible fog whirlpool. His eyes were wandering, and he seemed to be guessing the reason why such a scene happened. That sword must be an immortal weapon of the same level as Ho Yi's bow, otherwise it can't cause such a big stir. I'm afraid the other side is strengthening the sword with Ming Qi. We must get this sword. A moment later, the ancestor of Xiandazong stared at the whirlpool and said. Otherwise, let's start ahead of time, so that the immortal treasure won't fall into the hands of the skeletons. Sima Changkong nodded silently and said, those people in the Xian family are definitely not the opponents of the skeleton clan. If that old skeleton monster starts, I'm afraid they will be in trouble again. Hearing Sima Changkong's words, the ancestor of Xiandazong gave a cold hum. Changkong, you have been practicing for more than a month, and you can't keep your breath. Didn't you see it before? The people of the Xian family have never gone deep into the sea of no return. I'm afraid they have found the skeleton clan in the fog. Why? There are at least hundreds of times that disciples do not return to the sea. They are very familiar with the situation there. It is impossible to sense the situation inside at the edge of not returning to the sea. After all, the fog suppresses the mind so much that no friar can break through this suppression. What's more, I felt that there was no skeleton in the place too close to me. Sima Changkong said firmly. The ancestor of Xiandazong snorted again. Changkong, you are just too conceited. Just because you can't find it doesn't mean others can't find it. Although those monks in the Xuanjia family have a high level of spiritual realm, they should not worry about it. However, Yi Tian, who has only Longmen realm, has a lot of eccentricities. You can't take it lightly just because this person breaks through the immortal killing array. Moreover, you can't find out that Xuanxia is right about the fact that this person is his master. Now all their actions are led by this person. The monks in the spiritual realm are just looking forward. If they don't have any real ability, do you think it's possible? Sima Changkong was not satisfied, but he didn't dare to contradict his ancestors. However, he said euphemistically, ancestors, no matter how powerful he is a real monk in Longmen. Maybe they are too timid to go deep into the dark fog. Once they are taken the lead by the skeletons, it is absolutely impossible for us to get back that immortal sword. Sima Changkong knew very well that if he really got the sword, it would fall into his own hands. After all, Lao Tzu's main concern now was his own Shouyuan, but he didn't care so much about some foreign things. What's more, he already has an immortal weapon. Listen to me, the people of the Xian family are not so easy to be killed by the skeletons. They will not go deep into the underworld. No matter what, we can't move for the time being. We must wait. Even if we have a chance of winning, we can't guarantee that the Xians will be killed here. Once they return to the Lansang spiritual realm, they may face the pursuit of the whole Lansang spiritual realm in the future. You don't know how powerful the Xian family is in the Lansang spiritual realm? No matter what Sima Changkong said, the ancestor of Xiandazong just didn't agree to start at this time. Well, I hope we can have time then. Sima Changkong was helpless, but he didn't dare to disobey Shangguan Yunhong, so he had to say so. While they are talking, Yi Tian, on the edge of the fog sea, stares at the picture in his mind, looks at their mouth shape, and knows the content of the conversation clearly. Up to now, Yi Tian is at ease for the time being. In a short time, he should not face the situation of double attack. Sword Spirit, how long will it take to finish? Induction of the Sea of Fog in the Ming repair changes, Yi Tian asked. Master, this is just the beginning. It will take a long time. The voice of Ziyun Longjianling came to my mind immediately. Well, you're ready to withdraw at any time. In a moment, there will be meditation. We have plenty of time to absorb resentment. It's not a bad time. Yi Tian looked at the picture in his mind and said. It's all at the master's command. I said it's the master's for 300 years. The sword spirit says very cleverly. After communicating with Jianling, Yi Tian confesses to Xuanxie and Yunzhong respectively, and then they see that Yunzhong and Xuanxie, with the children of Yunjia and Xuanjia, are in the dark fog. Before long, just as the soul of Xianlong's sword absorbed the resentment in the dark fog, Yi Tian suddenly said, the soul of the sword retreats quickly. The soul of Xianlong's sword has already been ready. When Yi Tianxin's idea just passed, the shadow of the fierce soldier's flying sword immediately flashed and came to Yi Tian. Yi Tian reached out to hold the handle of the sword and yelled, retreat quickly. With his cheering, the children of the Xian family and the Yun family suddenly retreated at the same time and flew away to the dark fog. Yi Tian is also not slighted, holding a fierce sword wrapped in the crowd, with other people to retreat. However, the huge whirlpool did not disappear, but followed the fierce swords and moved rapidly. Its momentum was different from before. Yi Tian and others have just pulled out of the dark fog and come to the environment of blue sea and blue sky, but they see hundreds of white shadows rushing out of the dark fog and rushing towards Yi Tian and others. With a gesture, Yi Tian releases Dun Tiansua and flies to the distance behind Xuanxie and others. Many white shadows seem to have lost their taboo of staying in the external environment for a long time. They are chasing Yi Tian and others. Their speed is not much slower than that of Yi Tian. Why is there no sign of replacing the meat and bones? Yi Tian Lightie, palm pressed on some rune of Dun Tiansua's head, crazy input mana. Dun Tiansua suddenly jumped up, and his speed immediately increased. Although he was not as good as those people in Xuanxie, he was able to keep a considerable distance from the meditation behind him. Shangguan Daoyu, come to intercept the pursuers, we are out of the fog. The distance of 100 li came in a flash. When Yi Tian saw the group of people in Xiandazong, he quickly spread his voice far away. So treacherous? Hearing Yi Tian's voice and seeing the situation in front of him, the forefather of Xiandazong twisted his brow into a knot in one's heart. How could this be different from what he had imagined? As expected, Yi Tian's gang should have had a big fight with Mingxiu, and then they were killed and fled in confusion. However, they ran away without fighting, but they led Mingxiu over. Welcome! Save them. The ancestor of Xiandazong was very reluctant to help Yi Tian at this time, but he suddenly thought that there was no contradiction between this situation and his blood oath. If he didn't follow the blood oath, he would be killed by heaven. In particular, his Shouyuan is not much, and he still needs to hide from heaven to slow down the loss of Shouyuan. Sima Changkong and others don't want to do it at this time, but the old ancestor has already said that if they don't do it according to the old ancestor's instructions, they are suspected of harming the old ancestor. They dare not take this risk. Although they say hello to Yi Tian's people in their heart, they are unambiguous in their actions. More than 40 figures answer Yi Tian and others in a flash of lightning. Seeing that there was someone on the side of Yi Tian, more than 100 gods began to slow down and even gave birth to a sense of retreat. However, before they retreated, they saw Yi Tian and the other friars passing by. They didn't even care about the friars, but they continued to flee for their own safety. More than 100 gods were shocked and rushed to the monk of Xiandazong.
Don't look back, keep running. Don't let Mingxiu think that we will go back to rescue them, and let them deal with Xiandazong boldly.
As Yi Tian inputs mana into Dun Tiansuo's rune, he sends a message to Xuanxie and Yunzhong.
He's joking. If he runs slowly, Mingxiu should be worried. He doesn't have to fight with the people of Xiandazong.
The farther away these people run, the more they don't want to support them, and the fiercer they fight.
Master is brilliant.
Since Yi Tian so ordered, Xuanxie naturally would not turn back, but the divine thoughts covered the situation behind him.
The battle between Xiandazong and the Hell practitioners could be seen at a glance.
Fei Duanin can't help but smile to Yi Tian thumbs up.
It's just the beginning. We can't compete with them.
Try not to expose our cards, otherwise we won't have a surprise effect. Yi Tian said, continue to fly forward, seems to leave, no longer return to the posture.
But far behind them, Sima Changkong and others are secretly complaining.
More than 100 gods are equivalent to the incarnation of human friars. They come with rage, but they don't catch up with Yi Tian, but they vent all their anger on Xianjianzong and others. Those meditation practitioners are totally in a desperate way, fighting to lose both sides, but also trying to keep Sima Changkong and others here.
Originally, Sima Changkong wanted to intercept these meditation practitioners.
According to the blood oath made by his ancestors, he could deal with them superficially and then it was over. But this contact, he found that want to get out and back, but not so easy as the phenomenon. In an instant, 6 or 7 monks were injured to varying degrees, and a disciple of the spirit realm fell down on the spot under the siege of several meditation practitioners.
Damn! Get back! The ancestor of Xianjianzong didn't take part in the battle. His blood oath was that Xianjianzong was responsible for intercepting the enemy after the Xian family's children couldn't return to the sea.
He didn't say that the ancestor himself was responsible for intercepting the enemy, so whether he moved or not was not against the blood oath. In his present state, he can't do it easily. Once he does it, it will aggravate the 5 failures of heaven and man and reduce the cost of Shouyuan. At this time, after he yelled angrily, Sima Changkong and others each gave a strong blow. They were ready to fight, but they suffered some injuries. They also wanted to get rid of the encirclement of Mingxiu. But at this time, those Mingxiu suddenly gave up the attack, and quickly flew back to the fog sea.
Who?
Sima Changkong and others took a long breath, standing in the same place, looking back at the back of more than 100 Ming gods, and they did not dare to chase them. Fortunately, Mingxiu worried about being outside for too long, lest he would be affected too much, and reduced his fighting capacity. After only one charge, he returned to the Sea of Fog.
Laozu, this is a very unfair loss.
Younger martial brother Tian has fallen.
Sima Changkong grabs the body of a monk who is sinking to the bottom of the sea.
He grabs the body out of the sea and blows up a huge wave to the sky. I didn't expect that little boy was so cunning that he was put on the blood oath.
But it's good to get rid of the bondage of blood oath. We'll find an opportunity to settle with him later.
Xianjianzong's face is also very ugly, looking at the direction of Yi Tian's departure, hateful voice said.
Now what? Sima Changkong asked. They certainly won't leave.
They must go in and look for 7-star grass.
We still have a chance.
Remember, don't expose your cards. They'll be caught off guard.
The ancestor of Xianjianzong warned.
Then he said, now that we have finished the blood oath, we are no longer limited by the blood oath. We don't have to be so close to the sea, so that the skeletons can deal with the people of the Xian family with ease. Just keep an eye on what's going on there and choose the right time to do it,
not to mention the need to do it in the sea of no return. Yes, in accordance with the law of our ancestors. Sima Changkong agrees and sends the corpse into Shumi Ring. Then he takes all the people to the direction of Yi Tian Dun. At this time, Yi Tian, who has gone away, has stopped his body of Feiduan. What happened behind him has been clearly sensed by his mind. It's a pity that those meditation practitioners are two counselors, and we won't go back to help them. More than 100 gods have such a big advantage that they say they can run away. Yi Tianpa murmured a little regretfully, and with Xuanxie and others, he went around in a direction and flew away to the other side of the fog sea. Yi Daoyu, please stay. With a flash of body shape, the ancestor of Xiandazong takes the children of Xiandazong and obliquely stops Yi Tian and others. Do you have anything else to do? Just now, thank you for sparing your life to intercept those white bone monsters for us. For the dead Taoist friends, Mr. Yi expressed his deep sorrow, and please be merciful. Yi Tian's face was very heavy and full of sincerity. The ancestor of Xiandazong knew that Yi Tian was a cat crying and a mouse pretending to be merciful. He hummed coldly, just now, it's just a blood oath to fulfill the promise. There's no need to thank him. It's just that we've just intercepted the opponent for you, and the transaction between us is over. Next, we are going to return to Xiandazong. It has nothing to do with whether you are dead or alive. Naturally, it's only one interception. In fact, Dao Yu, it's not Yi that said you. Originally, you don't have to die. You once warned Yi not to resist in the face of the white bone monster. Just kneel down and beg for mercy. They are not intelligent creatures, so naturally they will let you go. Yi Tian shook his head and said. Hum. The ancestor of Xiandazong left with a cold hum. Both sides are smart people and know each other well. What kowtow for mercy is just a joke. So at this point, the ancestors of Xiandazong didn't want to cover it up anymore. As a result, there must be a rift between the two families. Naturally, no one has to be hypocritical. As soon as the ancestor of Xiandazong left, Sima Changkong and others also left, and soon disappeared in the vision of Yi Tian and others. Master, I think it was a good opportunity just now. Shin Crack looks at the figure of those people, can't help but feel sorry. But Yi Tian shook his head and said, there will be better opportunities than this. It's not the time to move the immortal Taoist sect. When their ancestors are weaker, it's not too late to clean up. Otherwise, if Xiandazong is forced to die now, I'm afraid that ancestor of Xiandazong will spare no effort to break out the strength of Yupu realm. But I don't want anyone here to get hurt or fall down. But didn't Master give him a way to prolong his life? Can he ever be weaker? Xiancha knows that Noda has many ghost ideas, so it's reasonable for him to say that, but if he doesn't ask clearly, he thinks it's a matter of fact. Of course, there will be opportunities. In fact, the most frightening thing for the master is the immortal weapon used by the Shangguan Yunhong. If he puts all his eggs in one basket, he will surely be more lethal than any other monk in the spirit realm. As a teacher, I just don't want to give him this opportunity, because he doesn't know that his Shuyuan is slowly passing away, and he won't take the initiative to work hard if he doesn't know that he is dying. Yi Tian said with a smile. Master, is there something wrong with the secret method you gave him? The Shin Crack hears the speech to listen to the meaning, quickly spreads the sound to ask away. It's natural. Otherwise, how can a teacher benefit such a person out of thin air? Yi Tian smiles, moves again, and flies away to the distance. Shu Wei done. 2 done. Take off. Next, Yi Tian takes Xuanxie and others to perform complicated and changeable evasion methods. One is water evasion, one is earth evasion, and one is flying into the sky. No one knows what Yi Tian wants to do, but Yi Tian, who once again escapes into the ground, does not return to the water with all the people, as if he has disappeared out of thin air. In the dark fog, Mingzuan with 2 red flames in his eye sockets suddenly stood up after Yi Tian's group had completely disappeared. His bones cackled and let go of his mind to look around, but he finally got nothing. Finally, he continued to sit down with his knees crossed, no longer looking left and right, as if he had turned into a white bone statue. More than 3 hours later, invisible Earth Dun Yi Tian has come to not return to the island.
From the bottom of the sea above the soil, out of the water, and then out of the sea, quietly on the island. The island is filled with dark fog.
Tian is like a gust of wind.
With the dense fog, he changes the direction of seclusion. With his understanding of the nature of wind, he can see nothing different. Dozens of miles of area, not to return to the island terrain. Tian has been thoroughly familiar with the heart. He quietly toward the stone cliff with 7-star grass.